Phoenix Down Radio is on the air. With your hosts, Klaus Nightbringer, Sertimono, Seyo Mayo, and Luna Vox.
Welcome everybody to Phoenix Down Radio, episode 21. 21, guys.
We're now legally the age to drink.
Yes.
Yay! That means I've been here longer than I haven't.
That's true. That's true.
So, it is good that you pointed out legally, because that says nothing about what we may have been doing prior to this episode.
Shh.
The past is the past.
It's really, the past is unknowable.
The statute of limitations is up?
Not yet.
Yeah, as long as you didn't get caught.
That's not how statutes of limitations work.
No, definitely how it works.
Actually, that is how statutes of limitations work. I'll tell you more after the show.
The more you know.
We'll have a legal discussion. It'll be hilarious.
That's actually what I do for a living.
Lovely.
Thank you for joining us, everybody, right here at twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio. I am Klaus Nightbringer, and as you heard, we have a full house with us today, including a fat cat. So how's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Doing pretty good. Not bad.
I'm somehow alive.
It is kind of warm over here, but not outside, which means I accidentally turned my room into an oven somehow. I am figuring that out.
Yeah, how does that work?
Sarah's room turned into an easy bake oven.
Ooh, do I
Will
get
you
like
make me brownies?
Exactly.
The chocolate cupcakes.
Ooh.
Okay, I'll take that too. Anything chocolate.
Yes, chocolate is good.
Honestly, I think it's a computer. It's not quite as bad as I've talked about 1.0. The graphics engine turned my computer into a space heater, but pretty much anything that makes it struggle along a little bit.
I think we're coming up with a new segment now, how to keep Sarah from spontaneously combusting with his computer.
Ooh, ice cream. Lots of ice cream.
I don't think that's how that works.
That's just going to turn into a milkshake.
Get him a 10.
Will it bring all the boys to the yard?
I knew somebody was going to go there.
Do you want all the boys to come to the yard?
He won't mind.
Like, is that a dated reference yet?
Yes.
No.
two out of 3, you're overruled.
I have boobs. Suck it.
We're off to a great start today, folks.
Don't you know the person with the boobs and lack of penis is always right? Haven't you guys learned this already?
No,
well,
I'm not in that kind of relationship.
Well, just wait. You'll learn.
Well, I did sell the show really well, saying, we talk about, inane things, so apparently it come true.
Particular.
Exactly.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. Way to go, Klaus.
You're welcome.
Yeah. God.
Klaus.
Well, anyway, this has been one hell of a week, hasn't it, guys?
It really has.
Tuesday? Who is glad that Tuesday is over?
Oh.
They did it a lot. They did it a lot better this year.
That's what I understand, but
yeah.
They sold out.
Housing wars. It was housing wars all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting all jittery trying to hit F5 until the virtual queue came up, and it's like, now what?
Don't hit F5. Don't hit
F5. And we got in, and we got our tickets. I think Sarah got in first. And then there was that lovely debacle where he ended up getting an extra ticket because of a technical glitch.
Yeah, it wouldn't let me change the amount there. It said, to go back, you would have to cancel the order. And I was like, no, I'm not canceling this. I don't want to give this up. If someone could take the ticket. And we found a home for the ticket, so that worked out. But...
Yes, but he was freaking out a little bit and that's understandable because, it's an extra $142 that he's got to spend,
Yep. Versus possibly losing my place in line.
Exactly. But, so we've got a home for that ticket. All of Phoenix Down Radio will be going to FanFest.
Yay.
So we've got our hotel room booked. We've got our tickets purchased. Now all we need to do is wait for October. So,
we don't that's not all we have to do. We have to think of swag, and I have to make a cosplay, and
Well,
There's
yeah,
things to be done, Klaus.
Are those like strictly required?
they're not required. I mean, but they're nice to have. But see, I don't know if I'm going to do a cosplay this year because I'm going to be doing a lot of other stuff and
Yeah.
things. So
I've already decided on the Saturday that it is. I'm only wearing my cosplay for half the day, and then fuck all. And then I'm going back to the hotel room, changing, getting my makeup did, and then I'm coming down back to join you guys because no way I'm gonna be able to wear that foam mask for a
God.
freaking full day.
right.
Oof.
But so yeah, we're Luna and I and one other from our free company are going to be taking the nice long road trip in October, which will be fun. Seyo
I
and
should buy a
Sarah,
plane.
I think, are gonna elect to fly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to get a plane ticket yet.
Yeah.
To get on that.
Well, Seyo's got to go all the way across country.
I've heard that I get it sooner rather than later because I saw
yeah.
someone on Twitter say that just from 2 days ago their plane ticket was over $100 more.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
There's some people I got to talk to though.
You either have to
Yeah.
go book it really early or last minute. And you don't necessarily want to book it last minute because you could end up paying a huge price for it. But sometimes you can
Yeah.
get those really cheap deals.
I'm sure the demand spikes had nothing to do with that.
Oh
Mhm.
no,
I mean,
not at all.
I have miles, so I care a little bit less. So
That'll
Yeah.
help.
That'll make it a little less painful.
Chili in the chat putting on he's got a 17-hour flight. You and your
Ooh.
little 17-hour
We have
flight.
a 24-hour drive.
Yeah. Psh. Suck on
But
that.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Actually,
Have
it will
you-
be nice. We're gonna have 3 people in the car. We're gonna be able to split shifts. We're probably gonna leave plenty early, so we'll be able to take plenty of rest stops and all that.
Remind
So
me to talk to you about that after the show.
yes, we need to have some discussion on what's going on with that.
Yes.
Moving forward. So that's
Logistics.
yay. So that was fun. Any of you other
But,
people
yeah.
kind of putting together a list of the different people either within the game itself or in the community that you guys want to meet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, my list is
Tons of
getting
them.
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from like Yoshi and
I kind of
Koji Fox and
That's
all
good work.
those guys, there's a lot of people in the the community that I want to meet. A lot of the other podcasters and people from the free company and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little curious. I know last year they had, or not last year, last FanFest, that's 2 years ago now, they had the whole VIP tickets thing, which made it a lot easier to meet all of those people, like dev team members, all this stuff like that. That's not something that they're doing this year. Is there going to be some other way where you get the chance to meet these people? Are they going to have it less open? What's the plan there?
I have no idea.
Who
Well,
knows?
We all just attack them when they're out in the open,
yeah,
like animals.
we glomp on them. Ugh.
Last FanFest, they put the tickets up. There was only like 200 or so of them, and they literally sold out within 5 seconds of the thing being up.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Did you just say glomp?
I said glomp.
Oh my god, 2009. Here we go again.
Or like 2006. God.
Yeah, right. No shit. You just made it worse.
Exactly. Hey, I'm
I
old.
was 16. Oh, that was 10 years ago. I can math.
Yay.
Um,
Anything else amazing happening to you guys in game since the last time we were here?
Moogles
I
remain
kinda-
fluffy.
Yeah, Moogles are still fluffy.
Does that make you
confirmed.
happy?
Yes.
I'm beginning to see an end to this relic.
Lies.
That's silly. There is no end.
There is no
It-
end.
it-
There is only
it
Zool.
may- It may happen at some point within the next 3-4 days.
Nope. Lies.
It's just that cake at the end of the pole.
Oh god.
Yeah,
We're all fat chocobos.
the cake
Yes.
is the lie.
There is no
Oh
spoon.
God! And speaking of it being 2006,
Yeah. We're bad.
Are we old yet?
Yes.
sure.
But are we officially in that age group of where we're old but yet we're hip and cool?
Well,
Keep
we've always
telling
been
yourself
cool, but right? Is that how it works?
Uh-huh.
We're the ones on.
Yeah, we're definitely in that age group.
Yeah.
Confirmed. Thanks, Klaus.
Uh,
God damn it.
I'm just open mouth insert foot day.
Pretty much.
Day.
Shut up. Shut up.
Shut up.
But no, Luna and I are also got some pretty happy news. Our fat cats are on the way. We'll have them next
Woohoo!
week. That's why I've got my fat cat minion out. So,
Are we supposed to be getting a special minion with that one now?
You know, I don't know. I really hope so. There was nothing announced on it, though.
No, there wasn't. That's where I'm kind of confused.
There's
heard, like months ago, back when the pre-orders came out,
Mhm.
I heard that we're supposed to get a special exclusive white fat cat with it, but
they data mined this white fat cat from like a patch or something, but they didn't specify whether or not that's going to be coming attached
I
with
guess
this.
it'll
But
be a surprise.
yeah, well, I mean, regardless of that, we're getting a fucking fat cat plushie, and that's just awesome in itself.
So fluffy.
They'll
It
be
is.
coming along to FanFest.
Oh god, yes. And the Moogles, I think, are going to come along to FanFest.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, they don't take up that much room. Maybe, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. We are going to have a car full of people, so I got to kind of be careful
Delegate.
there. Yes. All right. Well, that's kind of the things that have been going on for us mostly. We've done some other stuff, but, you know, it's neither here nor there, honestly. It's boring.
It felt like it got quiet again quickly.
Well, I think it's because we've just been rushing through. We've been so hungry for content that, you know, we've been just jumping on, you know, the new stuff we've got. And it, you know, people are rushing to get through, get their, do all their hunt stuff so they can get seals and tomes. They're, you know, rushing through Aether Chemical Reactor because it's one of the best ways to get ESO tomes. You know, because everyone's trying to get their relics done. A lot of these people are doing it for static purposes, myself included. I rushed through hunts to get all the books and stuff so I could upgrade my gear. You know, all that lovely, fun stuff. But we have been doing a lot of maps.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh god.
The maps are still really fucking fun. Making tons
Sarah, have you
of
been
money.
able to do any of those yet?
I still haven't gotten to do any
Oh my
maps.
God! After this, we're popping Sarah's cherry.
Yep.
Let's go.
We've
Yeah,
been
I
trying to
still
get you
haven't
in.
Yeah, stuff keeps being busy. The library world is library world.
Well, stop it. God.
Stop it. Stop being so
Yeah.
productive, damn it.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Well, let's move on. We can maybe have some more of this fun discussion, you know, within another stream.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
if you want to tell us what you guys have been up to, you can always go ahead and email us or tweet at us, podcast@phoenixstarradio.com or at PHXDN Radio. We're always interested in hearing what our listeners are up to, and you know, maybe we can you can understand and relate to what we're going through. We can relate to what you're going through. Maybe we can discover that maybe we don't have it so bad after all. All right, game and community news. We've got a couple more days left of the Amazon Final Fantasy XIV in-game item promotion. That ends this coming Monday night, June 27th. For those of you who have not yet, go spend $20 on qualifying items in the video games department, and you'll receive a code that you will be able to then apply to a web page, and you're going to get 6 codes to put into the MOG station.
Just did mine today.
And it is.
Disclaimer, you can't get more than one.
Yep, you can only get one code per Amazon account, and you can only apply one set of codes to an SE account. So if you were hoping to get more copies of something, not going to happen unless you have
And,
another Amazon account.
Another thing, it has to be a North American account too.
Yes, it has to.
Yes, it has to be.
Yep, so we can't give it to Chili or Paul. I'm sorry. You guys are getting yours soon, I'm pretty sure. One thing that I also did notice is because it's tied to Amazon.com, if you're trying to order something that is U.S. region locked and you are in Canada or Mexico or somewhere outside of the U.S., you will not be able to order that. There are other things you can get, like non-region locked game codes. Some digital downloads will work just fine. So there is, you know, some hope there. It seems like an oversight to them to not include Amazon.ca, but
Yeah.
because this is for the NA community. But anyway, you've got a couple more days yet to
I,
do that.
I mean, we know that Canada's just America's hat, right?
Hey, come on!
Yeah,
There's a
same.
lot. We've got a lot of really cool people, and our servers are in Canada.
According to SE, obviously, because they can't figure it out.
Well, I don't know.
So what'd you guys end up ordering for your thing then?
Oh, I got the Zero Escape series, the third game, Zero Time Dilemma. Comes out in about 2 days. I put in the pre-order for that one.
Nice.
Really great visual novel series that I absolutely love. If anyone's heard of 999 or Virtue's Last Reward,
Oh
great
yes.
series.
Cool.
Very nice.
What about you, Seyo?
Mhm.
I pre-ordered the new Zelda.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
And you, Luna?
I actually ended up buying Husbando a Blizzard gift card for his Battle.net account so he could get Diablo 3 via X-Pack. So I betrayed SE
To get
and
SE
then got
items.
free shit from SE. Yep,
Terrible or something.
I know. I'm horrible.
I made up for it for you by buying Heaven's Word for my PS4.
Ooh.
So I can attach that to my my account. But that wasn't quite $20, so I tried to get a Vita charger as well. But for some reason, that particular order did not send me a code. So I ended up buying GTA 5 for my PS4 as well, and then I got the code for that. And
Nice.
that's where we discovered that you can only get one per account, because I tried to get a code for that other order, and so.
Yeah, and then I tried to get a code for Odin Sphere that I bought later, and I couldn't get that either. So
We were hoping to be able to either, if somebody needed it that didn't have an Amazon account or something, or perhaps use it as a giveaway item. But unfortunately, that was not to be. So sorry, guys. We tried.
Sadness.
We did
we
try
tried
for
to
you
give
guys.
free shit. We tried.
we tried.
So that's that.
Sadness is deep and immense.
So like I said, you've got till the 27th. Maybe it might be 3 a.m. on the 28th, because I think it goes till midnight Pacific time. 11:59.
Sounds about right.
So
Mm-hmm.
all the details are out on Amazon. Speaking of other sales, SE has a number of games on sale in the Steam Summer Sale, including a number of the Final Fantasy games are up to 75% off. Right now, if you want to get a friend into this, they can get them A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Word for $30. It's $10 for ARR and $20 for Heaven's Word. They do not have the combo pack on Steam, so you would have to purchase them separately, but it is half the price from what it normally is. So if you have a friend who wants to get to it and they use Steam mainly, you can send them a Steam gift card or send it to them via Steam and get them in there, send them your friend code and get some swag. Or if you want to get any of the other Final Fantasy games out there, or even things like Hitman, Lara Croft, a number of Square Enix games are on sale right now.
Ah, the Steam Summer Sale.
Right.
Because we just had too much money.
I'm staying away from that one. I know our free company friend Bulu, Nick Nar in the chat here, who is auspiciously missing this week.
Right?
Where'd you go, bud?
I'm sure he's probably playing the new games he just bought. If he posted on Facebook that he bought a whole bunch of games.
Oh.
Anyway, it is what it is. Final Fantasy XIV has a gear design contest, Tank Edition. That started actually a couple weeks ago. We forgot to talk about it on the last show. But it runs through July 4th, 7:59 a.m. Pacific time. So you can design a full set of tank gear, which is head, body, hands, legs, and feet, and using digital drawing software, and submit that to Square Enix, and you have a chance of getting that set in the game. So if you
Make me look good, guys.
If you are so inclined to be able to do something like that, go ahead and enter that. You have a chance to get Nola Barding and all the other wondrous swag that they have to give away for that. This is kind of a cool one. Limit Break Radio has been talking about this one for a few weeks, and I went in to take a look at it, what it was like. For those people who are in the San Francisco Bay Area or will be visiting out there towards the end of July, the San Francisco Symphony will be doing hosting a Final Symphony music from Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 10 at the Davies Symphony Hall in San Francisco. They're going to be featuring Nobuo Uematsu. And before the show, Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, will be hosting a pre-performance talk. So it actually sounds really interesting. So, I mean, if I was out there, I'd be totally jumping on that. I know Sarah's thinking about it.
Yeah, I've got some friends in the area who are thinking about going to it. I've been to similar concerts before, and it's always a lot of fun.
So if you're going to be in that area, you can go to sfsymphony.org to take a look at tickets. There's still a few available. So yeah, check that out. It's going to be a wonderful night of Final Fantasy music. Now Luna's got a little bit of a Hyperion community news she wants to talk about.
Yep. So recently I've been really wanting to do this for probably about a month or two, and I just never really got around to it until probably 3-4 days ago. But I see all these fun events on Tumblr and on Twitter that these other free companies on Balmung are doing. It's all role-playing stuff, and I just think, why can't we have that here on Hyperion? Why can't we have a community events and role-playing events? So, in light of that, I actually started to try to build up the role-playing community here on Hyperion. And at first, I really got a lot of guff for it. Like,
No
I know
way.
Seyo saw it. Yeah, I got a lot of freaking guff for
Yeah, I
it.
saw when you posted on the Hyperion group on Facebook.
Like, saying,
Like-
oh, go over to Balmung or go over to Gilgamesh, blah, 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 blah. I
Well, my
don't...
favorite, like, what is this, ERP? It's like,
Yeah, there's kind of an assumption
what?
that any role playing is going to be a sexy thing.
Sexy time.
Sexy time. No. Like, okay, I'm not against ERP. I don't do it personally, but if you're into that, you're into that. Just go on your merry way, do your own thing. No big deal. But as far as the role playing that I want to do those fun community events, in-game contests, have like a bar that people show up at and just hang out and chill, and we pretend to be our characters in game. Like, that's fun to me. I like getting into active roles like that. So I went around, I shouted in all the cities, and I did party finders, and now I've started an RP community right here on Hyperion. The link shell that I actually created, it's called Luna's Lounge, and the group of people that I brought together, we have a Facebook page called Roll Hyperion. So if you guys if you're into RP, give me a message. I'll add you onto the link shell. We're already 50 plus people into the link shell. So definitely, if you're into role playing, I encourage everyone to please come on over. We'll get you in. We'll start this community and we can make it great together.
Let's make Hyperion RP great.
Yes, exactly.
can't exactly make it great again, can we? So let's just make it great.
Yay.
That works.
Very cool. So I wish you luck on all that, Luna.
Thank you.
So like I said, if you're interested in that, go check out that. We will link it on the show page if you're interested in going to check it out. Luna, you'll send me links for that, right?
Yes, I will.
Awesome. So, E3 was a thing that happened. We talked a little bit about it when we were guest hosting on Moogle Go Round last week. But one thing we didn't discuss that day was the focus on Palace of the Dead. So I know you've probably heard everything else going on with what they talked about at the E3 live letter. So we won't bore you with all the details, but we will kind of talk a little bit about the Palace of the Dead, which was they gave some really good information on that. So Palace of the Dead's going to arrive in patch 3.35, as everybody knows, which is going to be less than a month away. We're kind of fighting back and forth to determine when that actually means, because E3 was 2 weeks ago, and I think that's at that time they said less than a month ago, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that when they mean by less than a month that it's going to be sometime in July, any of that month, or does it mean less than 30 calendar days from that point on?
Yeah, so are we going to have a Camp Class and a Camp Seyo for this?
Well, basically we're just going to we'll find out when it's going to be, because we're going to be looking at, I'm thinking it's probably going to be 3 weeks from Tuesday. Seyo's thinking 2 weeks from Tuesday, which either way.
Can we start taking bets?
No.
Oh.
Oh, but I kind of wanted to do the donation war shit or something like that.
Oh, no, we're not going to be stealing everything from other podcasts. Come on, we're not that desperate, are we?
No.
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
Time.
Well,
But it's so fun.
regardless of when we get it, it's coming very soon, and from the looks of it, it looks to be a lot of fun. I'm actually hoping 3 weeks because it'll give me a little more time to kind of get everything else going, so I can give more time to this content. You know.
Mhm.
Well, if you guys want to donate and donate in hashtag Team Seyo or Team Klaus, I don't care. You can go ahead and do that by all means. But you know, we're not officially quote unquote stealing the bit. It's if our listeners want to do that, but you know, I'm not gonna stop you.
Oh God.
Sorry, I had to go there. So you must be at least level 17 to unlock it, but like they said, you're going to get the most out of the storyline if you are at least through 2.4 and Tamterra hard. So if you've gotten through that point, the whole Edda storyline, you'll get a lot more from the content there. It's going to be you'll need to talk to somebody in Quarry Mill to unlock the quest, and then it'll be somewhere in the South Shroud. So, let's see, yada, 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 yada. You started as level 1 in the dungeon. No matter if you're level 60 outside or level 17 outside, everybody starts as level 1, and you build XP within the dungeon itself. Now, XP, you will gain some XP that'll come out of the dungeon with you as a reward, but it won't be a one-to-one translation. So if you gain level 60 inside the dungeon and you're only level 40 outside the dungeon, you're going to still be level 40 plus whatever XP you can bring over from as a reward.
It's pretty much going to be kind of a roguelike. Like, for those of you who've played them on the PC, Rogue, God, what's the other big one? There's a batch of other big ones like that. Console players might remember As Your Dreams or possibly ZHP on the PSP. But it's the same type of thing where each time you start at level 1 and you build up levels fairly quickly. And a lot of the focus is on not just using your high-level stuff to punch your way through, but trying to intelligently make use of your resource.
It's like Binding of Isaac, isn't it?
Yeah, Binding of Isaac is another good example of that.
No.
Though, that probably going to be a little less cruel than Binding of Isaac.
Now, Marth in the chat is asking an interesting question. He's asking, is this a class-by-class basis? I'm trying to think, did they say you can change jobs within the dungeon?
Not actually sure.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing anything like that. But
I think it's going to be like, we'll get into the save files later, but I think your save file is going to be your class and your party.
Well, I know you get 2 saves, so if you want to run with 2 different statics, you can do that. So it's possible you may have to run, like, if you want to run as a healer, you have to run with this one save, and if you want to run as a warrior, you have to run with another save. But if you change groups or anything like that, it's going to go back to the lowest level of the person in your dungeon. So if you start with new people, it's going to basically restart you at that point.
Yeah, I'm guessing they don't want it to have the old thing they had of like, oh, hey, we'll sell you a jump in the dungeon or any of those shenanigans like that.
Exactly. But it's I don't know. I guess I don't recall whether or not you can actually change jobs within the dungeon. That's something we'll have to look forward to, I guess. I mean, it would make sense. I know that the composition of the parties is not locked to the Trinity, so you can have 4 healers, 4 tanks, 4 DPS. It doesn't matter, or you can go solo, or a mixture of anything in between. But like I said, you'll gain level in there, and you will then get rewards from treasure chests and ankhs that you will use to you'll either lock abilities, like you won't be able to raise, you won't be able to use magic, you won't be able to do this or that, or you will get a boost that you can apply to your weapon or your armor. Because the one thing is your item level when you go into it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, it's vaguely reminiscent of Salvage back from FF11, if anyone remembers that, the whole having abilities locked and other things like that.
Similar, yeah, but like I said, you start from the beginning and you level up from scratch. So it's its own leveling system. The biggest reward you're going to get out of completing this dungeon is the ability to take your glowing weapon out of the dungeon and use it in the outside world. And they said it's supposed to be a pretty high level item.
Mm-hmm.
And,
well, yeah, after you get done building it up, yeah.
Yep.
And what they actually said too was like, say I'm a black mage and I go in there and I build up the black mage weapon. They did say something about like being able to use the weapon points that I get in there on like the scholar glowy weapon and just say, hey, I have my relic on black mage. I don't need this, but I can use it on this job.
Exactly. I'm really interested to see exactly how everything works out. They showed the interface. It looked very old school. Kind of a mixture of some 1.0 elements with some 16-bit stuff as well. So it was really cool looking. Hopefully you can customize the colors on that because it came with like a brownish color. I'd like to get like a blue or a red color in there personally, but
yeah, I'm sure they have been fairly receptive to the fact that people really like to color match and outfit match and the like. So I'm sure there'll be some amount of customization of that at some point. And
at the release of the dungeon, there's going to be 50 floors. And like I said, they say you're going to reach level 60 by about level 40 or so. So the last 10 levels, you're going to be roughly level 60-ish equivalent, and with enough boosts on your equipment to to be able to take on mobs of that level. Every 10 levels will be a boss fight where once you defeat the boss, you'll be able to save your progress at that point. So you won't be able to save, if you only get through 5 levels and stop there or whatever, you have to quit, you're going to have to go back to your previous save point. You have to go through 10 levels at a time. But they did say you'll be able to get from level 1 to from floor 1 to floor 50 in about, I want to say he said about 3.5 hours. If you did it straight.
Please don't feel like you have to do that all at once, people.
You don't, but
you're allowed to enjoy things.
You know people are going to. People are going to.
I'm just asking them to not to for once. They're not.
Let us have nice things.
They're not gonna listen.
They're allowed. Like, don't destroy yourselves. It's okay.
Well, if they destroy themselves, that's more for us. Yeah, 3 hours isn't terrible. Hell, we usually put in 4, 5, 6 hours in this game easily, without blinking.
Yeah, that's true.
And they say they're going to go up to another, up to floor 100, and then they really want to get to floor 200 by the end of 3.x. So yeah, it sounds like a really interesting system. You guys really looking forward to it?
I think it'll be fun. It'll be something new to do on our downtime.
What's downtime?
Looking forward to seeing what happens with clouds.
Downtime is what happens when I'm sitting on the game all day and I've done my maps and done Moogle Quest and I'm like, I'm capped on lore. What do I do?
Morbon in the chat saying, yeah, at least it's not FFXI killing that one monster for 18 hours. Oh my god. Are you talking Absolute Virtue or are you talking about Pandemonium Warden? Oh yeah, and then the GMs come in and say, oh, no, you can't do that, and then they reset it.
No, actually, going off topic just a little bit here, they would have had it. They just decided to wipe it on purpose because at one point one of their people had passed out sick and had to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
what?
that one was Pandemonium Warden was one where they. I think it was the form it turned into, and it summoned a bunch of avatars, wiped everyone, and they could have recovered. But at that point, the realization that, okay, there's an entire another phase of this. Not just a little bit further push, but an entire new phase with new set of mechanics to deal with. And we have had people who are like starting to pass out. Like, there's something... I remember reading the council that something just psychologically broke.
Well, Mormon's also saying that he wasn't drinking water or eating anything. He basically was poop socking.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But no, I remember that when that news came out too, I'm like, holy crap! How can you not take a break every couple of hours? I mean, our link shells would stop and take breaks after we would hit certain content. I remember the worst we had was we had a currnt fight that lasted about 4 hours, and we had about 3 alliances sitting down there, and we'd rotate parties in and things like that. So
That sounds hellish.
but that was 11 for you.
That would never fly today.
No,
Pretty much.
it wouldn't. But
That's the power of just a little further, guys. Just a little further.
Or a few more minutes, guys, waiting for an H&M to pop or something.
God, never got into camping that stuff.
Anyways.
Anyway, yeah. Well, it was like I said, this was a long time ago, Moribund and Chili, as far as our currnt run, and it was we weren't high end hardcore, so we were kind of
hardcore.
Yeah, we were doing it for fun, and it was all good times. Yeah, I didn't get any drops out of that one, which kind of made me sad. But the drops in 11 were few and far between. You were lucky to get anything. I mean, all those Dynamis runs, and I never got my hat. No pimp red mage hat for me.
No hat for you.
I've tossed those away. They really upped the drop rate.
Yeah.
Well, it has been it's been 6 years since I played the game, so.
Something like that.
All right. So that's Deep Dungeon. Next thing we'll talk a little bit about, there was a really good interview done jointly by Gamerscape, PlayStation Universe, and MMORPG.com with Yoshi right around the E3 timeframe as well. We'll link the article that they posted out on Gamerscape for those who are interested. But we're just going to talk about a couple of key points that they talk about. Probably the one that has most people up in arms, at least within the content creating and podcasting community, from all of the podcasts that I've been listening to, is this whole idea of the leveling or jumping potion. Basically, they asked Yoshi what they wanted to do to keep 4.0 from being story gated. Because there was a lot of complaints, mainly actually, he said from the North American side, and I think it was actually mainly from the reviewers that were out there who got a copy of Heavensward, but they did not have a character that they had already leveled up to 50 at that point, so they were stuck behind 2.0 and they couldn't review any of the new content, which that's legitimate, but
and I think that's going to be more of a problem the longer the game goes on, where if you do have new people coming in, especially if they came in because they were drawn to it by their friends, not being able to play with said friends is going to become more and more of an issue.
Yep. But anyway, so kind of talking about that, what he said is we'd still like players to get through the story content, but some elements of the expansion we're considering letting players access certain elements without having to complete content from ARR, which that's kind of cool. So you still have to do a lot of the storyline, but you don't necessarily have to do every single quest in order until, and then you can set foot in the next zone. You can maybe do get your Dark Knight or whatever the new job is, and you can start doing a few things there, but you don't maybe get some of the MSQ stuff at that point.
Or maybe they have like abbreviated versions of some of the MSQ stuff that still get across the major plot points.
That's something I want to discuss in a little bit.
Sure.
But the other thing that he says, another thing we're debating internally, is whether or not to have something like WoW's jumping potion that would work with both levels and story. The Chinese version actually has something similar to this already, and he's trying to decide if something like this should be timed with 4.0. Now, that to me right there is a big no. We are too fucking early in the life cycle of this game to even be considering a jump potion at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I've been listening to other people talking about they go out and they'll create a new character just to go through the storyline again. Yelta from Gather Together was talking about that on their last podcast. She created a new character on Goblin. She got through the majority of the 2.0 storyline in 48 hours. And she got way over level 50 by doing just MSQ and then a few other normal things that you would do as a part of your daily playing a game. So it's not like it's difficult anymore. We don't have to grind out those levels like we did when the game first came out.
So, I mean, one thing I would want to ask with that is how much of a difference does it make if you if you've played before, if you know a lot of stuff already.
I'm sure it helps a lot because you haven't, you know roughly where to go and what you're looking for to advance the storyline, whereas a new player might not be as certain, because a lot of times the quest giver will move to a different location that was kind of specified at the end of the last quest, and if you don't read what's going on, you're going to miss that.
Right. Or stuff like knowing about specific enemy behavior or general enemy behavior.
Yeah.
Knowing that, hey, this is a thing you can do in order to get around this particular issue, stuff like that. I feel like knowing that type of thing is going to make a big difference.
But going back to what you were saying there, Sarah, I fully agree that one thing they should do instead of these jump potions is to cut the fat out of the MSQ. There is no need for that stupid quest between before you hit Titan story mode to build up all that feast shit. There is no need for that in MSQ. That can be moved to a storyline or a side story quest. And we can just, move from point to point to point and cut all of the extraneous stuff that's not necessary and move forward. Because there's a lot of quests that really don't do anything to advance the plot.
I might debate on some of that, but
there's a few of them that I think they should keep, like the tearjerker ones. That were at the sands. That one I think they should keep because that's a good story-driven quest. But why do we have to go gather wine and cheese? Well, move it.
I mean, they could.
There's an argument for that.
I think they could still have that, but instead of being like multiple quests, turn it into a couple quests. Like, again, you could streamline it in a lot of ways, I think.
Or like I said, make it side story quests. Optional. Not required to advance the game, but something that you should do. I mean, we already have, there's precedent for a few dungeons that are locked behind that way that aren't main storyline, like Cutters, like Karn. Those are not main story dungeons, but they're opened up through side story.
Right. Though I think you do end up having to do Karn as part of the main scenario quest eventually, don't you?
No, that's Grand
yes,
Company, is it not?
No. You actually have to go back and do level 35 Karn later in, I think, 2.1 or 2.2.
Yeah, in order... There is a bit where you are getting a stone that they're going to use for a defensive thing.
Okay, you're right. But yeah, as far as actually to advance through the main storyline in 2.0, it's not required. But like I said, most people had it unlocked because I think it was a thing with Grand Company as well.
Yeah, it was probably for GC promotion.
I mean, that one and Aurum Vale was Grand Company promotion, and Zemel Darkhold was a Grand Company dungeon as well, correct?
Yeah, I think those were the three.
But I mean, like I said, there is in the game itself, there's already precedent for this. I don't know if it would be too much dev time to streamline the process to make the MSQ a little bit easier to swallow. If he wants people to experience it, you have to make it palatable to somebody who's trying to catch up relatively fast, right?
Well, they'd have to rewrite the scenario if they were to say, okay, well, you don't need to do this whole feast thing because of X, Y. Like, there are story reasons why it has to be done.
You can put it all into a cutscene saying that you did this, and or just maybe combine this together.
And then you end up with the second disc of Xenogears.
Oh, God.
You're probably not wrong, but you know what? There's, like I said, it's not going to be something that they can do overnight, but it's something that they can look into other than just putting in a pay-to-win potion. Right?
I mean, I think the part that I find most troubling would be the fact that it would be a paid one.
Yeah, that'd be kind of...
I'd be more apt to agree with you, by the way, Klaus, if it were just what you were saying, what you just applied to, say, 2.1 to like the end of 2.4, beginning of 2.5, so that you could have some basis of knowing why you're actually going to Ishgard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if you look at a lot of the 3.x series, a lot of those patch quests, they're very short as well now. So, I mean, it's not like it takes very long to get caught up on a per patch basis now.
And I mean, I I
Go
could
ahead.
imagine like redesigning some of the quests. I think because in part earlier on they were made longer to help like extend life, so it isn't the type of thing where you go through it in a matter of a day or whatever.
Yeah, and it was,
but
you didn't want people to end up, finishing the game in a day when it first came out. But when you're trying,
Right.
when you're a game that's 3 years old now, and we're going on to your second expansion here soon, you want to make sure people can get to the new relevant content in a timely manner at that point. So I can understand there's positives and negatives to both sides of that story, but like I said, I don't think that a jumping potion is the right thing at this point in time. Maybe some sort of key item that maybe you can unlock a quest, or I don't. There's a number of ways. Like I said, I just wanted to discuss it because I wanted to see what your guys' opinion was, and I want to see what our listeners' opinion is as well. So email us podcast@phoenixstormradio.com or shoot us a message at PHXDN Radio on Twitter, and just let us know what you think would be a good way for SE to get people to proceed through the storyline without skipping it. Here's my... Go ahead, sorry.
What if they kind of did it like this? They say you can get in the game, but then you have to go up to, like, how they have that play the game for free until level 20, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you get to level 20 and then they offer you the option of sitting there and watching a cutscene that summarizes the story plot for like an hour and a half, like a mini movie. And then you start in like...
Make sure to make time before watching this scene.
Exactly.
Here's my issue with that. I mean, and that's something that people have discussed as well. But at that point, like I said, you advance up to that level, you don't know your job yet. You get your level 50 character, you get all of the you potentially get all of the skills that go with it. You don't know how to use it.
Okay, but I mean, that's always been an issue.
So, like, let's say you get up to the point where you can get a job then, and you have to do like certain dungeons or trials or get guild tests that teach you how to do your job. And then they're like, okay, now you can go do the jumping potion if you so choose.
Frankomophone in the chat has a very interesting idea there. If we get to jump to 60, we need to have a required solo dungeon with computer playing the rest of the light party as mediocre players so that you can show competence in your job.
Yeah, WoW actually does something similar. Don't even laugh, because they have a I think it's called like a proving ground or something, where
the training ground. Are you thinking of?
Yeah, it's like
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like if somebody actually uses the jump, they have to get a silver medal in whatever role they want to queue as in order to queue for heroic dungeons.
Well, I suppose you could always make them pass Stone Sky Sea type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that only does so much, though.
Yeah, I think the actual dungeon environment would probably be better if you're going to go that route.
I'm just thinking ideas, but otherwise, you could always just play through. If you streamline the game slightly. Put a little bit of a couple devs on that. We've got almost a year until 4.0 comes out. I'm sure that they can do something like that. Or Chili's saying expand the novice network.
I mean, if I ran the world, like everybody would have to run it regardless of jumping or not jumping. But
yeah,
Moogle Quest says make them do Aurum Vale.
Oh,
cruel.
And Chili says naked.
It's not.
At this point, that's just about punishing the newbies.
And your point?
I thought this was some really good discussion on that. This is exactly what I wanted, guys. Thank you.
Good.
You're welcome. We're so happy we can oblige.
But I mean, again, if you've got newer players coming in, I think, because you do want to have them be able to play with the others, play nicely. But if you start putting too many roadblocks in the way, then you have the same problem as before. You've just kind of reskinned what the roadblocks are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but okay, so you have like a time roadblock versus a cognitive roadblock, right?
Right. But there's also how do you make sure that people choose the roadblock that's going to be right for them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always the option of you can require somebody to get a quote-unquote license.
It's like Final Fantasy 12. License
Not quite,
This
but you
is-
know what I mean. It goes
I know.
back to
Essentially,
Seyo's option, cognitive versus a time sync. You know, if you can demonstrate proficiency, you can skip forward. If you can't, guess what? You get to go through training, bitch.
You don't have to sound so gleeful about it.
Right?
Why?
I was just gonna say he
What?
sounds a little too excited about that.
What,
Well, I'm sorry, but if you can't get through that, then I don't want to be dealing with you. You can go back to friggin' training.
yes.
No one's arguing about
What if
that.
they-
It's
what if
mostly
they
you sound rather happy to be doing that to them.
What if they expand the relevance of the new adventuring center? You know, add not only just level 15 stuff to learn the basics, but you go to level 30 stuff, level 40 stuff, level 50 stuff.
You know,
But
now that you
what
say that,
really-
now
what
that you
really
say-
changed- I'm sorry. Go ahead.
now that you say that, Klaus, I have never been to that. Never.
Now who's the bad?
I have no
Kidding.
reason to.
No, I didn't either, but I went through it and I got some really cool gear. I did it for my black mage actually, so I got all the new adventure mage gear.
Playing black mage now,
Well,
eh?
technically no, it's for thermometers, and I did this quite a long time ago, and I
Oh.
haven't put any of it on.
Well,
But I did it.
Oh boy.
But
Klaus.
I did it.
maybe we can help you later on in the show.
Later on in the show, maybe
that.
you can.
Because I'm leveling black mage, actually.
Well, see, my
So,
black
stay
my,
tuned.
my thaumaturge is level 17, which is perfect to get it into a certain deep dungeon coming up.
Ooh.
Ooh. We're having too much fun with this. All right.
Anyways, we should probably keep moving
Yeah.
on.
Another interesting question that I wanted to talk a little bit about. MMORPG.com asked, with items, Heavensward is interesting with the diversity and how they look like weapons and equipment. We're still seeing items, however, that only have marginal upgrades. Have you given any thought or concerns to diversifying items from a gameplay standpoint, like changing how your abilities work or anything like that? Where have we heard this from before?
People have been like begging about that for how long?
Mhm.
Right? Here's Yoshi's answer. In terms of having specific abilities assigned to a weapon or a significant stat on a weapon, the chances are that players are going to look at that and see it as the strongest weapon and all flock to it. So when the development side is looking at game balance, we'd have to anticipate a party of 8 with everybody having that particular weapon and set the balance to match that. By doing so, we run the risk of limiting the options you have for items, and the difficulty would have to be balanced to cater that particular weapon, and that's a very big risk and not something we feel is a good thing. Other MMOs have done this and haven't been successful with it. If there were specific items that had a boost or an added ability, we would want a situation where the item needs to be hard to obtain by farming or making the drop rate extremely low, and that's not really productive either. And in this game, we have people of all skill levels. Different players have the freedom to choose which content they want to play, and so the development team wants to make it so that no matter how each player plays the game, they can still end up at the same strength and be on an equal playing field. That's what we keep in mind when deciding the strength of an item. Adding any special like stats or abilities on weapons is quite dangerous, so we try to avoid that kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was something that, going back to the 11 talk, it was really exciting for a lot of stuff, but at the same time, so many things started becoming required gear, where it's like, if you don't have it, we will kick. Because as soon as you can do this, enhance this particular ability this particular way, we want you to be able to do it.
Yes, but in defense of that situation, Final Fantasy XI also had items that you would keep wearing for levels upon levels upon levels. You would wear
Right.
level 7 leaping boots because of their stats. You would wear a level 30 belt because it gave X amount of haste. You would wear blah 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 because it was awesome. And
There was definitely, like, the leaping boots are a great example of something that had an outsized stat boost for its level and stayed good far longer than anything else would.
or the Empress hairpin, or
Oh God, how long did I? Dude, I had an Emperor hairpin. Thank you.
Old
I
school.
capped it before they changed it,
old school. Yep, and bounding boots change.
and people still want defending rings. That
Yep.
stuff's like over a decade old, and people still want it.
But so it would be low level stuff, but it would be useful in end game stuff situations still. So
Right.
it was a very horizontal item progression at that point, where we are in a very vertical progression. So our new gear becomes irrelevant patch after patch after patch.
Right, but I mean, the opposite is So I mean, right now it's saying, "Hey, our new gear becomes irrelevant almost immediately." The converse there is this new gear remaining not only relevant but like practically vital for years, or as we saw, decades at a time. Like, where's the middle ground there?
Well,
But
go ahead.
the middle ground, I mean, the way that I've heard of like other vertical games doing it is okay. So say we have a raid tier that has a set bonus that does something to X or Y ability, and it completely changes the way a class or a spec of a class plays. Well, then they get to the next tier and they grow out of it, and then they ditch it for the next item level up. Then the next item level up has something different and totally unique as well. So, like, I mean, the cycle keeps going.
Yeah.
Also, you kind of said a magic phrase there.
Set bonus. Yes.
I don't know how I feel about those. I really love them, and at the same time, I'm really afraid of them.
They're already in the fucking game. They're in Grand Company gear from level 30.
Well, yeah.
And there's some at level 40 and some at 50, I think, as well. But
and then there are some weird ones on the original Grand Company Elite gear that I did not understand the purpose. I still don't understand the purpose of having those, but they were there.
It would give people the reason to farm up an entire set of gear and use that, even if it's not quote-unquote best in slot piece by piece. Having the set bonuses could make it useful.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, if Yoshi wants to have people who, maybe don't raid, he could make a full icon set be irrelevant if you have all pieces, and then you get the set bonus of, say, maybe plus X percentage of this or some other type of set bonus on top of it.
A thought. Another way to do it might be that say you've got like raid content, craft content, whatever. You got a couple different things, and the gear would have the same base stats on it, but different set bonuses. So if you assemble a full suit of stuff from all the content, however it's mismatched, you're going to end up with the same stats. But if you can focus your attention on one, then you might end up with a specific set bonus.
Yep, and depending on the type of gameplay that you tend to gravitate towards, maybe set bonus A will be better over set bonus B for you, or maybe if you're rating, maybe set bonus B is better than set bonus C, or
it's
maybe
an interesting idea.
Or maybe you have to use like those items like you have to with the Grand Company gear to get sanction. So it's a time limited set bonus that you get with it.
I never liked sanction.
Well, I mean, it would act similar to a food buff at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, like, food buffs you can at least carry with you.
Well,
I know technically you can buy a scroll of sanction, but even when sanction was a relevant thing, I'm not sure if people ever actually did that.
Just an idea.
I know. We're floating ideas.
Or they can maybe redo sanction to be more similar to the way it works in 11, to where you can turn it on for a longer period of time.
I'm doing the bad thing right now. You float all the ideas, and later we figure out why they may or may not work. But right now we just float ideas. Okay. Sorry. Bad habit of mine.
Luna, you have any thoughts on it?
I never played 11, so I...
Or from any MMO in particular you've seen something similar?
My WoW days are kind of hazy, so
Do we dare ask why?
No, don't ask why.
It makes raiding better.
Yeah, but no, I just don't see how it can be relevant in this game, though. Is the thing.
Well, we need to have something besides the 4 stats and 5 stats that we currently have, because people are really getting frustrated with the raid and how they develop.
Yeah, it is. Do you think they're ever going to release the other 2 tabs in the Grand Companies and then add more gear into that so you can get the set bonuses that way? Or
they've talked a little bit about it. There is a way to see the names of the various ranks of anything above what we have right now is a commissioned officer. I remember there had been discussion of something that involves having like a platoon to command. So I imagine if you're an officer with a commission, that's where you start getting all the various units under your command. I expect that's something that they do want to develop. Like, they do have long-term plans for that. It just hasn't happened yet.
Chile, I guess I'm also was going to say that 3.4 where they're talking about adding new ranks. So, so we'll be able to upgrade at that point.
The thing right here, don't I? All right. So right now I am. Oh, okay. Here we are. So the highest rank available is second blank lieutenant, and then those are all listed under
NCOs.
Yeah, actually, all of the previous ranks are petty officer and soldier. Second blank lieutenant is the lowest one under commissioned officer. And then you have first lieutenant, captain, second commander, first commander, high commander, rear marshal, vice marshal, marshal, grand marshal, and champion.
Damn it, Sarah.
What? If you want to see this, go ahead and hit C to bring up your character tab. Under profile, click on the Grand Company logo.
Well, there you go. The more you know.
Yeah, it is a super hidden thing that people never seem to notice, but it's there, and it does show all of the names for all the different ranks already in there. And those are the same icons as you can see when you're the little insignia when you're looking actually at your Grand Company. So they at least have the structure for it. It sounds like something they want to do something with.
All right.
And hell, I mean, they wrapped up Dragon Song a little earlier than I expected in terms of patch numbers, so maybe that gives them time to start doing something with this.
Well, let's see what the we got 3.35 to look forward to, and then 3.4 coming up in the next 2.5 months or so. So let's see what they talk about going forward, and see what we have to look forward to. Speaking a little bit of FanFest, it's basically been confirmed that the next expansion will be information will be revealed at FanFest in Vegas. The Japanese gamer site GameWatch had an interview with Yoshida recently, and in there he announced that they would give more information about 4.0 at the upcoming FanFest. That was go ahead.
It's a great place to do it. I mean, like, the tension and excitement is at a fever pitch. Everyone's really happy to be there. They've got on the brain. So if you go ahead and bring this up, people are super excited. Like, I remember just the mention of Heaven's Word, or the hush that fell over when they showed that first trailer of Dragon Song. Like, it's a really exciting moment, and I don't think you can duplicate that by sending it out as an announcement or whatever. Having all of the people gathered there, excitedly tweeting it out, live blogging, sharing every little bit as they get it, hungry for those scraps of information.
God.
Oh, it's beautiful!
And we're gonna be there for that.
Yep.
I mean, I was still like directing and yelling at people in the Odin line, but it was still beautiful.
I think they're going to leak just maybe the tiniest little bits of this at Tokyo Game Show, but the majority of it's probably going to be announced at FanFest Vegas. Anyway, the website
he likes his leaks.
Website Silicon Era did a overview of the interview done by GameWatch. The site is all in Japanese, but we can link both sites on the show notes if you want to give them a read and read more about what he talks about there. So,
the one that always amuses me, and I think is a little testament to just how far people are willing to go for information and how clever they are, is inevitably someone will say, hey, this copyright was just registered and it has this particular name in it. So you have people watching the copyright application, scanning through all the stuff, looking for anything that's mentioned.
And they think we have no life.
It happened with Heaven's Word, because we wouldn't have been able to discern the expansion name Heaven's Word directly from a copyright. However, the Japanese name for Heaven's Word translates roughly into Blue Skies over Ishgard. So then when people saw that, we knew what Heaven's Word was.
Yeah, it's interesting. The English names tend to be a little more poetic and evocative. The Japanese names tend to be a little more straightforward in my experience.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
I like the poetic and evocative. I'm sure you could not have guessed that.
Oh, no way.
No way. You.
I figured you were all straightforward in business. Come on.
Oh, yes. Let me massively elucidate. I don't even want to finish that sentence. I really hope my dad is not listening. If my dad is listening to this, I am going to get the biggest knowing told you so ever.
All right. Well, so that...
Don't do it, Dad.
That was a lot of discussion on just the game news going on, and we haven't even gotten into our main discussion topic.
We're an hour in, and...
But hey, it was all...
Oh, boy.
It was
good discussion.
Extremely good discussion. So we'll try and maybe make this discussion topic a little bit shorter, but it's really, really important, and I think that's something that needs to be brought up. During E3, Yoshida brought up the ideas that people thought that some of this new content in patch 3.3 was too hard.
Ugh.
And people want instant nerfs, and because they can't get all their things right away, that it's, bad design and terrible stuff.
We can't tell how you feel about this. Not
at all. So we're going to talk a little bit about game or the difficulty of the dungeons that we've received in this particular expansion. So, like I said, biggest issue, people wanting nerfs on Weeping City and Final Steps. These fights did have a higher learning curve, and they require a lot more attention to detail in order to get through these fights. But once you learn those mechanics, folks, they're not difficult fights. They just require you to not be asleep at the wheel.
I mean,
Exactly.
Final Steps of Faith, though, I mean, didn't that just kind of entail, like, get out of the orange, do enough DPS, and not wipe to the rage? And
so
knowing where to
what?
stand and paying attention. If you're, there were elements of that fight that were taken from other fights. Like there was a Leviathan element where you're watching the sides to see where Nidhogg is coming from. There was a lot of AoEs on the ground that you had to make sure to dodge while avoiding other AoEs. So
hold on a sec. I'm going to devil's advocate a little bit here.
oh no.
Yes,
well,
do it, sir.
Dude, I love devil's advocating. I really need to find that Simpsons clip and play it whenever possible. Final Steps of Faith, I think, is a little bit of a special case just because of how much the tension level has been built up. It's very easy to talk about how this mechanic is not difficult or this one requires to learn, but the conditions that you are playing under make a huge effect on your performance. Like, if it's something where you are very keyed up, you are very anxious or excited, that is going to absolutely affect how you play, how well you notice battle conditions. And, like, this is why when I've been in groups where, hey, we're having trouble, or there's a lot of exciting stuff going on, or it's getting to like the last 15% and the battle's really reaching this fever pitch, I'll be like, okay, everyone just breathe, by the numbers, kind of bring that down, because otherwise that absolutely will affect how you play. And mechanics that might not be as difficult otherwise are going to that you are going to have a difference in that just from the emotional impact of it. So I think that absolutely affects it, especially with a lot of the stuff that happens in the Final Steps battle. I think is going to be like extremely exciting and emotionally affecting.
Fair enough, but as Moogle Quest points out in the chat, would we really respect Nidhogg as a final foe if he was easy? Would we respect him in the morning? Really, would we?
I'd make a breakfast. I mean, wait, what?
But no,
we're not talking about that kind of respect, sir.
I'm actually on the side of, it's one of those things. Yes, you get into the heat of the moment. You start to tunnel vision as you're getting through it because you really want to get through this fight, and it does really make the moment of the fight when you're in there and it's like, oh, it's a really good fight. I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
And, whoa, this is exciting. What's going to happen next? But you also need to learn, even in real life, when you get to those points, you need to control your emotions.
Yeah. I think in general, people could really stand to get a little bit better at recognizing and talking about their feelings. No argument here.
So, like I said, I mean, I understand exactly where you're coming from, but that's the time. That's the point in time where people need to rein it in.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's understandable why they might feel that way. I think it's also just as a result of that, it can be really hard to objectively rate how difficult a mechanic is, just because so much of it gets affected by your current conditions.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Guys, I just kind of had a thought.
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so I'm guessing this is kind of like spoiler cast. We're holding nothing back, right?
Yeah,
Right?
we've
I can
already.
say that?
We've already.
Okay.
We're 3 weeks into the
Okay.
patch. I think we can go ahead.
If you don't want to hear it, go plug your ears and hum for a bit.
Go la 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 la. But anyways, when you're in that waiting room to fight Nidhogg, he's in front of you, but then once you actually get into the fight, he's on the opposite side of you. How did we get over to the opposite side of Nidhogg?
We jumped.
Yeah, I don't think Nidhogg would just be like, okay, go ahead, move along, get over there.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
It's a video game. It's not real life. This isn't
It's
real
kind
life.
of-
This is Final Fantasy.
Don't
Don't get caught in the landslide. Sorry.
You're done. You're done now. It
Yeah,
is a
he's done.
conceit. It is a conceit of the genre that we have all those primal arenas where the primal is ready to rip us apart, but we appear in the arena ready to do our buffing, and it's only once we approach that the battle begins. And I think that's just kind of one of those acceptable breaks from reality that it's a little bit nicer to not throw you in and immediately have you be beset before you have a moment to react. I think that's just one of those acceptable breaks from reality.
But it doesn't
part
make
of-
sense.
It's part of the convention. Like, it's
I
something
guess, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, like having buffing time at all. It's something you can hand wave away.
Yeah.
Now that Luna's up here, she's hypercritical of all these.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I have read just as much TV tropes. This is one of the things that would fall under acceptable breaks from reality.
Oh god.
All right. So now we
Anyways.
discussed that. Like I said, we are 3 weeks into the patch now, basically, and I will. We had a run of Weeping City. The 4 of us were in it, as well as a couple of other friends, and then a couple of pugs that joined us in party or Duty Finder, and we ran Weeping City with 0, and I mean 0 issues. There were no wipes. There was very few deaths. Seyo being one of them. Something about getting caught in a haircut.
Also, the other white mage in our party had some issues.
Yeah.
Though it was their first time. I saw
Yep.
them get the map achievement.
Yep, which, I mean, that's understandable, but you know what? They caught the mechanics and they learned. They paid attention.
They kept releasing in some of the fights. That was annoying.
That was
That white
hilarious.
mage pissed me off.
But Luna, you know what? You were awesome. You had a chance
Yeah,
to
I'm
shine.
freaking OTP healer here, and
Yeah,
God
you know
damn.
her.
I don't even know what OTP means, but
One true pairing.
One true pair.
I'm the one true pairing healer.
How does that even work?
Hello, Mr. Hand. How are you doing?
I am sorry I asked.
Anyway,
But no.
it was one of those things. People knew the mechanics. They paid attention, and for the most part, you can have 1 or 2 people fuck up, but it wasn't that an entire party was fucking up. Everybody had an overall understanding. Meteors were dealt with fine, and it was decent. So
Yeah, I mean,
Where's the
honestly, I think a
problem?
lot of the complaints about the difficulty, they were early enough that I didn't give them much regard. This is something that happens pretty much every time early on, just from hey, people are not necessarily geared up from the content yet, so the gear levels are a bit low, and also people don't know it yet. I'd want to wait until it's actually been out for a bit before I made any attempt to actually analyze the difficulty. So those first couple weeks, I don't even pay attention to it.
you just do it and you learn what you can, and then you analyze it after that point. Which is
And
what
I mean,
go ahead.
If a month later people are still saying, hey, this thing is really, really difficult, that's the point where I'd start saying, okay, let's take a look at it. Maybe there is something here.
So we actually did that. We went through and we looked at all of the dungeons, all the content that we've gotten from 3.0 to current, and we kind of rated some of the difficulty just to kind of see what kind of progression we got with how hard the dungeons were as we were going through. Now,
Because it's super subjective, of course, so please don't feel like you have to write off an email telling us why we're completely wrong.
or write us an email telling us why we're completely wrong, and then we'll read it on the air and we'll say how dumb it is. Just kidding.
If that's what you want to do, who am I to deny you from following your heart? But it's not required.
All right, so we're gonna just kind of go through these really fast. I mean, it takes up a decent amount of room on our outline here, but it's something, it's a lot of information. So starting with patch 3.0, looking at all the dungeons we got, they were kind of a ramping up in difficulty. We had Dusk Vigil, then Somal, then the Area, then the Vault. Each one got a little bit more difficult as you went on because you were learning your new mechanics, you were learning your new skills, and you were progressing, in level. You were going from level 50, level 52, 54, on up.
One thing that I thought was interesting, and we saw this in a couple other dungeons as well that come later on, but Somal, where the first boss, that Rafflesia, has a lot of mechanics that were very reminiscent of Second Binding Coil.
Yep, the first boss, you basically turn 6. And I like that because not everybody got a chance to do Binding Coil. So being able to experience that outside of the Coil realm was kind of nice to see.
Yeah, there are a couple other bosses that at various points that had similar types of things where it was reminiscent of, but not the same. I guess I might call it remixed.
Yep.
Aetherochemical's second boss is actually a big one, where it deliberately goes into turn 1 mode, turn 7 mode, turn 8 mode.
Yep. Which is a very nice throwback to the coil and the elegant technology that was used to kind of hold Bahamut in check.
Right.
Mhm.
So very
So
very
having
interesting.
that in a remixed form, I think, as you said, yeah, it gives you people a chance to sort of see it, experience it. If they ever do decide they want to go back and try some of that old content, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, it's kind of like this."
Yeah. So basically,
Yeah,
go ahead.
that reminded me a lot of like a Mega Man boss gauntlet, which I found was
Ooh,
really
yes,
nice.
yes, that is it exactly. Ah,
I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So basically, looking at patch 3.0, the dungeons were not difficult. They were allowing us to learn the ropes on our new job, so we didn't hate Wanderer's Minuet forever, type of thing. Get used to the growing pains that we had. But
So I
the
think
level
people
of
still hate
difficulty
Minuet.
was not there. It wasn't difficult, and I think that's on purpose.
yeah, I like those were leveling dungeons. They're
Mhm.
not
They're
meant to
leveling
be
dungeons.
super inaccessible. They're meant to be a little bit of a challenge, but mostly to just introduce you to stuff and let you practice things.
And then the last three dungeons, Aetherochemical Research Facility, very, very long dungeon with, at the time, no reward other than needing it for story.
Mhm.
Yeah, they fixed that one at least.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Fractal Continuum, easy dungeon. Just gave you a few rehashed boss fights. Well, one rehashed boss fight, basically, the Ravana clone.
Mhm.
And then, it was interesting, but it wasn't difficult. And then Never Reap, easy, but in my opinion, long and tedious.
You really, you really
At,
think it
at
was
the
that
time,
long?
at the time.
Yes,
Oh.
nobody likes Never.
A lot of
I
people.
like Never Reap.
I absolutely still love Never Reap, but I know a lot of people were frustrated by the fact that multiple bosses had things where they would become invincible for a bit.
Yeah.
Like, even if the overall speed and the rate at which you take it down is the same, that perception of, oh, this bit is stopping progress is really infuriating.
I mean, I understood. I mean, actually, every boss had had something like that, and it was causing, so you'd have to pause and deal with a mechanic instead of DPSing the boss for a moment. But like I said, I mean, they were interesting when they came up, but now that it wasn't difficult once you figured it out.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the raid. Gordius Normal was really, really, really easy,
And that was pretty much by design, they had said.
but Savage was what the fuck.
Nobody did it for a reason.
Literally, what the fuck. It was really, really hard. I mean, it Alex 3 was a static breaker. And in some cases, some people still think it's a static breaker, even with the nerfs.
It's kind of similar to actually talking about Binding Coil, where the first coil, I think, was it
You're talking about
turn
5?
I think turn 5 was the one that ended up being a static breaker as
20?
well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Nah, I mean, there were a lot of people that held people up.
Your individual experience notwithstanding.
Hey, I worked my
Hey.
ass off to get through turn 5.
Sure.
Hey, I had a group break and an FC almost break before I met a certain Shura Barumaru. That,
Now, to be fair, we actually did have a static break in Phoenix Down as well on 5.
Yeah.
Well,
But
no,
I mean,
yeah, we did have one break, and then we had another one break on 6, I think.
around there, like, got through 5. I was in that one. We got through 5 like once, but everyone, like, lots of people were upset at lots of other people at that point, and it kind of just collapsed.
It wasn't the content that did it; was other things that broke. But
the content was exacerbating.
but I had a couple of statics break on A3.
But I'm kind of wondering if there's a particular reason that the first raid in the expansion might be more prone to this kind of overtuning.
Hard to say, but like I said, it was the way that it was designed. It was extremely difficult, very tight DPS checks with very, very, very unforgiving mechanics. That if you had one mistake, you would wipe.
I'm guessing it's in part because, like, okay, I mean, again, I'm working with 2 data points here, so of course this is absolutely perfectly scientifically accurate.
100%.
But I'm wondering if it's because you have the introduction of all these new abilities. I mean, this was something that Square Enix talked about, where the players developed a different rotation for Ninja than they expected. And so I'm wondering if they have this stuff produced with a certain expectation of how players are going to play it. But then once it actually gets released into the wild, players can develop different methods. And so the first raid is going to be tuned for a completely different set of methodologies than what players actually use.
Very possible, but I know the way that they had gone through a couple of the floors was different from what the devs had anticipated as well. But like I said, I mean,
can we talk about for a minute? Like, okay, so if you're gonna have this expectation to say, please don't develop raids and playtest them using God mode.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest problem.
Yeah. And I suppose that the converse of that is, hey, you don't want the testers to spend like half of their day just getting to the point that they want to test.
Yeah, but
it's hard.
I will say that they learned a lot from that mistake of that. So moving forward, we'll discuss that here in a little bit. Let's talk about the trials a little bit. Ravana Normal actually can still be tricky in some ways because it's a level 53, and there are some interesting mechanics that can cause people to wipe. But not bad overall.
But
it's got the same thing that Titan's got, where it's like, hey, someone who's inattentive can be thrown off and lost completely.
Yep. Bismarck Normal is pretty easy. Agreed?
Yeah.
I've lost more Bismarck DFs than Ravana DFs.
Normal?
Huh.
Yeah, just by people being dumb and getting thrown off the island.
Honestly, if I ever get Bismarck in a trial, I fucking hate it.
Huh. I don't have too much issue with that one. I thought that was pretty easy.
All the time.
Interesting.
All the time.
Interesting. But I think we can all agree that Thornton Normal was a face roll.
Well, yeah. That one, it's like Final Fantasy X, you have the thing where you fight Braska's final Aeon, you defeat it, and then you have that thing against you, Yevon, where yes, you're doing that fight. Like, yes, it's technically a fight, but it's more supposed to be like a sort of triumphant closing of things. And I thought of Thorda and Normal that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought as BFA is the final boss of 10.
Pretty much. Like, Thorda and Normal I thought of as like, okay, here is this triumphant sequence to close things out. So, I mean, we're not going to make it a complete face roll. You have to pay a tiny bit of attention, but mostly it's an opportunity for you to be awesome and end this bit triumphantly.
Okay. Bismarck Extreme. Actually, I thought was more difficult than Ravana in many ways because of the mechanics and the fact that you can fall off very easily at the beginning.
I agree with that.
But its biggest problem was the lack of incentive to run it.
People got their one clear and left. Like, the weapons no one cared about.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think they liked the way they looked either.
They're ugly.
See, I like the fight itself. It's a great fight, and I love the mechanics behind it. I mean, I'm going back into it because now they've made it relevant with the birds. So, I mean, I'll go back and we'll farm it. Those damn birds don't drop, though.
Like, I like a lot of the weird weapons. Those weapons are ugly.
But I don't,
they are.
Like I said, I don't care about that. I'm only doing it for
right.
the bird.
But before those birds existed, it's like, hey, you don't need to clear for anything else. Like, the weapons are weaker than what you can get from Ravana, and they don't even look nice. So, like,
the bow
I don't think
wasn't bad. The bow wasn't bad, but the hive bow was godlike in comparison.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's like, okay, so you can do this somewhat more difficult mechanically thing for a bow that looks okay, or you can do the one that everyone else is already doing anyways, and you can get the amazing looking bow. Mm-hmm. That's not a hard choice.
And then getting into Ravana has mechanics, but it's one of those things, like I said, if you pay attention, it was pretty good. A lot of fun. It was a good fight and a lot easier fight in many ways, I thought.
Yeah, I can basically do Ravana.
I'm talking pre 3.3
at this point.
I'm not talking right now. I'm talking about 3.0, 3.1 time frame.
Still, I mean, it wasn't that hard once people got the sword division mechanic.
Yep.
And the double praise. Once they got that, then it was just face roll.
But yeah, hell, now you can run through that in what, 2.5 minutes?
Actually, 2 minutes and 15 seconds is the point where it becomes more efficient than ARF.
Yep.
Oh, like snow, they fall.
And Sarah loves the music.
It's so great.
So that's the 3.0. That's our first patch for Heaven's Word. That's kind of what we are idea of what we had for the difficulty there. 3.1, St. Mochien's Arboretum. Interesting, but not difficult. Pharaoh Sirius hard, pretty easy.
I think in St. Mochien's, I saw the most people die to going for the wall too hard and getting swarmed by bees. That more than even the bosses.
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that, because once people learned that that was a thing, they would try and burn that honeycomb and try and skip those mobs. But
It was pretty hilarious too.
The funny thing is, I can actually at this point I can actually solo that wall, and before people are even done with the bees, I can just be like, "Hey, you can just go if you want."
yeah, right.
It's the
Yeah.
Oprah Bees GIF. Bees. Oh, that GIF will never not be funny.
I mean, the bosses weren't terribly difficult. I mean, some people would die a few times on the Morrible boss because they weren't paying attention to the AOE that was spinning around, or they would let too many of the rose hips explode and whatever. But
I never had that was an issue for any of the runs I did.
it was right away. I had a couple people that died like that. I mean, we still we pushed through it, but it wasn't a big deal. But like I said, Pharaoh Sirius was pretty much just a face roll. That goblin or that kobold boss was actually kind of interesting, but and the mom boss fight and the dad boss fight, I thought it was fun, a nice throwback, but not hard.
I don't remember anyone
Can
who
we
complained about difficulty there.
No,
Can we have a
Yeah.
small discussion about
let's keep it brief.
like what's a hard mechanic versus just what's a small annoyance? Because sometimes I can't tell what
Okay,
Yeah. Like this
what
is
okay.
is supposed to be designed to like annoy versus to kill.
Yeah, I mean, like, in general, I differentiate between mechanics where it's like, hey, you need to memorize a sequence, or mechanics where, hey, you need to react to this battlefield condition.
Well, Akmorn is
not
definitely
much.
a one of those things that's designed to kill.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know there's the stuff that's just like the outright gear check, where it's, can you deliver this much DPS? Can you endure this much damage? Can you heal this much? Like, the phrase gear check has been around for quite some time, and I think some stuff does still qualify as it.
Moogle Quest, you got it right there in the chat. Totems, that was an annoyance in Neverreap.
Mhm.
A difficult one would be, getting stunned by, on the edge of the platform, and Bismarck and getting knocked off because of an AOE. That'll knock you off your game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess also you might look at like how forgiving a mechanic is, whether messing it up does a bit of damage or puts a status ailment on you,
Or does it outright kill you?
Mhm.
Right.
Well, we can discuss, the next one we were going to discuss, Void Arc, that had a couple of both of those types of mechanics. If you go to the Kuklane fight, that vial below, that was you stand in it, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that
And
was-
yet at the same time, like, people didn't seem to consider Void Arc that difficult.
no, other than a couple of those types of things, yeah, you wouldn't die because of it. Most of the avoid or die mechanics are going to be in the extreme or savage content. Like if you go back to say turn 7, initial difficulty petrifaction, and you got hit by damage, you're dead.
Mhm.
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
and then they nerfed it, and it's like, oh, you just can't move.
Yeah, but it still has the full difficulty in second coil savage mode. Plus more.
Like anyone plays that.
I want to try it sometime, but maybe. But no, Void Arc, absolutely super easy. People ignore mechanics for the most part.
Yeah. Moogle Quest in the chat said, good healers can carry mistakes through Void Arc. Totally agree. I can do that.
I think the worst thing that happened when it first came out was when you got into that first set of after the first boss, when you got into that room with the Morbles and the knots.
The ventilator.
Yeah, when people wouldn't kill the knots fast enough, and then the poison would build up, and then we'd all die.
Yeah, and I mean, mostly that just needs enough people to know the mechanics for a few people to be able to say, okay, they can face roll whatever, I will take care of this thing, and then we're good.
Now,
Like, not everyone needs to be aware, you just need enough of a critical mass, and that critical mass can be fairly small.
yeah, now you
Like
only need basically
2 or
one
3
person
people.
per party to be focusing on a knot. Because I mean, I can solo down a knot right now by myself without having it grow more than once. But and then I can get on the second one too and keep that one from growing too much as well. But when it first started, you had to have a couple people taking those down each, so you can make sure that
And
they
some
didn't
of that
get
is
too
good.
big.
And some of that is just going to be better gear as well.
Yeah, exactly. But so I mean, like I said, it was, and Yoshi even said too in an interview that Void Arc was too easy. It was way too easy. Now we get to the trial that we got with 3.1 Thornton X. Now that was a lot of mechanics, a lot of
I still haven't beaten.
dangerous mechanics
Neither
at
have
the
I.
time. At the time, it's pretty easy now, but
That's another one that requires you to memorize a lot of stuff, isn't it?
yes, it's one of those fights that really requires you to know what's coming up. It's very sequential in a lot of ways. There's a few bits of RNG in there, like which knight is going to get what debuff or what enhancement buff, during the twin knight phase, where the eye is going to spawn, where he's going to shoot off his laser beams, things like that. There's a few RNG bits, but it just, what's coming up, you know what to look for, you react.
Yeah, that's a very specific type of difficulty. I remember back in Realm Reborn, a group of friends that I would run with to do various things. Whenever we did Titan Hard or Titan, especially Titan Extreme, there was one person who was specifically designated with calling out what the next move would be.
Oh yeah.
And like everyone else was like starting to learn it and becoming more comfortable with it. But even then, there was one person memorize it, call it out, because that was what a lot of at least a big part of difficulty was hey, this thing is going to come up with very little warning, and you have to be ready for it.
Well, you remember the Free Company runs when we first cleared Titan Hard, don't you?
Unfortunately, yes.
So, I mean, that's exactly what we were doing. We had the rotation lists in front of us, and when we saw it, we would be calling it out in Vent. And
Right.
In the nerd screams we had on that first clear, oh my god. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways,
reminiscing.
But that is a very specific type of difficulty.
Yep. It, like I said, it's lots of mechanics, very scripted, but it's actually pretty easy once you get them down. And now it's something you could go into at your eye level, and you could probably do pretty well, push phases, and you'll get through it just fine because you want
Luna, we're Thorntoning.
We want a burb. Gotta get the burb.
Okay.
Let's all do it.
All right.
Okay.
Patch 3.
Okay, we're gonna do Aquapolis, but okay.
Patch
Bye, guys. We're doing
3.2.
Thornton.
These are probably two of my favorite dungeons from the expansion, Anti-Tower and Lost City Hard.
Oh god. Agreed.
They're easy, but they were fun.
I mean, Anti-Tower couldn't be too difficult given that it was required.
Yeah, but I mean, it had some things that you had to learn and some things that you had to pay attention to, like the one. Wait, no, that was that was Lost City Hard. Anti-Tower.
Anti-Tower, first boss turned into a frog. Second boss was the David Bowie reference that had the Stardust.
Yeah, that one. Okay, never mind. I take that back. It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And
just
third was Chaka.
Yep.
I feel obliged to point out, I absolutely hate Biggie from Copper Bell Hard with the passion of 1,000 burning suns.
But you love Ziggy.
Ziggy from Anti-Tower, he is my bro. I have no idea why there is a difference here. But Biggie can die. Ziggy is the best.
Like I said, fun dungeons, but I think still really easy.
Honestly, as of right now, Anti-Tower is still one of my, top 3 favorite dungeons in the whole entire game.
Clearly.
Yeah. You know what? Don't judge me.
I like getting that one in 60 roulette.
I really love that
too.
ethereal feel it has.
Oh, it's fun.
Just the atmosphere of it really makes that dungeon.
It's fun. Raid, Alex Midas. I thought it was pretty decent difficulty for a normal mode.
Yeah.
It wasn't as face roll as Gordius was, but it was still clearable.
I think it's fun.
More face
I think
roll
it's all
than Gordius
frickin'
was.
You thought it was easier than Gordius normal?
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
Well, I felt like Midas was harder, but just enough to be satisfying.
Mhm.
Like the fight with Quick Thinks felt chaotic enough to be really like a heart pounding and interesting. And brute justice, best thing. I sing along to it every time.
Yeah, you do.
Just like, well, yeah, you guys know this.
Yes,
Oh
you
yeah,
do.
we know.
It had
How
that level
long
of
did
tension.
how long did I wait to get you in there so that you could hear that and be like, oh my god?
You know, a surprising number of groups want me to run stuff for the first time with them so they can hear my reactions.
You have good reactions. That's why we love you.
That's also part of the reason why we have you on the show, because you are very fun to get reactions out of.
Yay! But yeah, no, like that one did feel about the right level. Like there was a good tension to it.
Yep. They learned their mistakes from Gordius. Because when you look at Savage, I'm the only one who stepped foot into Savage from this group, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the difficulty on this is just spot on.
They had a little bit of an issue, didn't they? With like, it was supposed to be extending 5, 6, 7, 8, and 5 and 7 were easier than 6. They fixed that now, I know, but that was an issue for a while.
Yes. 6, they did make some changes to difficulty to tone it down just a little bit, which did help it. We were progressing. We hadn't cleared it before the nerfs happened, but like I said, it was still the mechanics made it a fun fight and made us want to keep going. We're working on 7 now, and you'll get to see us stream that tomorrow night and Monday night.
That's actually a super interesting difference. Whether the mechanics are difficult, but they're fun and they encourage you to keep going, or whether they're difficult in a way that's frustrating and make you want to stop.
And see, that's where A3 was a buster. But like I said, I like the difficulty and the way the mechanics work with it. It's, like I said, almost perfect. Like I said, my only complaint about it is it's not long enough. It's just glorified trials.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of trials, we got Sephiroth as in patch 3.2. So we had Sephiroth normal, pretty easy peasy. Though I died the first time because I didn't pay attention to a mechanic and I fell off.
Yeah, God, how bad?
I mean, that is a thing for a lot of the primals. It's like, hey, there is something that will mess you up. Which kind of makes sense given that it's supposed to be like, hey, you are taking on gods. It does feel like there should be a little bit of life risking in there.
Yeah. Sephiroth is probably my favorite trial in the game as of right now. I don't know. I just feel it gets me pumped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And well, that in the second half music is really good.
I think
so. If I can say anything about that, Klaus,
no, absolutely not.
Don't
go ahead.
Don't feel bad about it because every time I hear Yoshida going in there, he's like, "Yeah, I fell off because I was used to the extreme mode, and this was more toward the normal mode,
right?
And the mechanics were different,
right?"
And it's like every time he goes in there, it's like, okay,
right? That's gonna become a meme, isn't it?
Probably.
Extreme, very challenging. Good mechanics, good DPS and healer checks, and an interesting fight. I thought it was well tuned.
I haven't beaten.
I thought it was well tuned.
Mm-hmm.
Seyo, have you beaten it?
No, I've gotten close, but I have never beaten it.
Yeah, paying attention to what people say about it. Definitely, it's something where you see a lot of like griping or talking about early on, and you can see the progression of as people start to clear it and become more comfortable with it. And what I saw of people's reactions for Sephiroth Extreme did seem about right. There are people who can clear it pretty consistently. There are people who are still working on it a bit, but it seemed like at about the right level where it is a challenge that people are working towards, but not an impossible one.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, go ahead. Sorry. Finish.
You do want that sweet spot. Like, you do want something where some people aren't going to be able to necessarily clear it right away, because otherwise it does become that too easy thing. But that is going to be super upsetting or frustrating for a lot of those individual people, like the ones who get to be the have-nots here.
So what I wanted to ask you, Seyo, real quick, as somebody who has not cleared that content yet, is the difficulty and the mechanics of it still intriguing and interesting enough to want you to actually clear it and keep going?
So that's something I was actually just going to talk about.
Okay.
The reason I didn't really do it is I wasn't in a raid static at the beginning of 3.2. I was making a lot of life changes at the beginning of 3.2. And by the time I had gotten around to it, the 230 relic had come out, and I'm like, oh, fuck it.
Gotcha. So it kind of became irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I'm noticing is depending on what phase you're at in the game, some of that content, like Bismarck, like Sephiroth, the reason to run it, the weapon, the drop, becomes irrelevant way too soon. But I mean, at least now they have the bird as a secondary relevance thing that you can get.
Which
Because of that, I will be back in there for it. You can bet on that.
I mean, there's a reason for it.
Mounts aren't necessarily a draw for everyone. Like, I like minions, but mounts I can actually kind of take or leave. I still don't have all my ponies.
Yeah, it's kind of a bragging rights thing. It's an EPing, so it's one of those. And then that brings us into patch 3.3, the current patch. So we've got Sorkai and Hullbreaker Hard as our dungeons. I liked Sorkai. Everybody else, difficulty-wise, did you like it?
Love it.
Yeah.
I love Sorkai.
It was great.
And I didn't think it was too difficult being a story mode dungeon similar to Anti-Tower, but I thought it was just enough with the mechanics that made you learn. Where the last boss, if you get caught in that one AoE that destroys islands, it can be a wipe mechanic potentially.
And I felt like having that. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier about the Nidhogg trial, but the whole thing like, hey, it's something that's a little more difficult. It's kind of like amping up the adrenaline and the tension going into it. So I think having that be a slightly more difficult is a reasonable thing to do, given that it's going right into the next thing, going into the finale.
It's kind of funny about that, though, because I was just doing it the other day, and we just gotten super lucky with the island thing. And he just blown up maybe like 1 or 2 islands, and it's like, oh, he really doesn't have a lot of HP, does he? I was just able to sit there and Zerg the final boss, and like nothing seemed to come near me, and then all of a sudden he was dead. I'm like, oh, that was quicker than it maybe could have been.
And then the next run, you probably had bad RNGesus, and you had everything heading against you, and you had all the stuff on top of you, so you actually had to do a lot more moving, and he didn't die as fast, did he?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
so I mean, that's one of those fights where because of the way the fights work, you've got those dragon heads that float across, you've got light elementals that will appear on different pads, you've got a focused beam AoE that will target a player, and then you've got that line AoE attack that will destroy islands. So I mean, depending on the order he goes in, it's going to really depend on how fast you can defeat him. I meant Zerg, Nicknar. Come on. Anyway. I'm having problems with the wording and the speaking and the way.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
That's impossible, yes. Now, on the converse, I thought Hullbreaker Hard was too easy. For the optional dungeon, I thought it was just way too easy.
Hullbreaker Hard, can I just go on blast here for a second?
Sure.
Nothing can stop you.
That whole thing just lacked direction. It was really uninspired. I feel like at least 2 out of the 3 bosses were phoned in.
Yeah.
And the other boss was trash. It was literally a trash pull.
Yeah. You're not
wrong.
Like
a big trash pull. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Moogle Quest in the chat is right. Hullbreaker Hard was easier than Hullbreaker Normal.
Oh god, it kind of was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And not by an insignificant amount either.
I felt like...
Go ahead.
I felt like they were reaching for straws when they were kind of thinking, okay, we have this storyline dungeon. What else can we throw in there?
I mean, I kind of had it from a perspective like, okay, we don't want to make a new one. Like, it's about, we need to do hard modes. What do we have hard modes left for?
Well, they're kind of shoehorned in there that they, in specific order they have to take them in now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've been going sequentially. Like 2.1 has been 3.1 has been the 2.1 new dungeon.
Yep.
3.2 has been the 2.2 new dungeon.
Like, we know we're getting Snowcloak as our next one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But so that, like I said, that's been my disappointment of the patch is Hullbreaker Hard.
Are they going to do Keeper of the Lake hard? Is that a thing?
3.5 is my guess.
I hope so.
Hang on, I'm looking at the list of old dungeons here.
I think that's the next one.
It's good. It's going to be Snowcloak for 4 and Keeper for 5. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so
then after that, I guess Dusk Vigil hard or Sohm All hard?
Well,
I guess
who
they can start
knows?
using the Heavensward dungeons.
Who knows what they're going to do in 4.0? Hopefully they
At
bring
that
back
point, we'll be in 4.0.
Well, I'm hoping that they bring back a second new dungeon, at least for for the 4.0 patches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Anyway, so the raid that we got with this patch, Weeping City, like I said, I can't say enough good about it.
That one has like a kind of unique difficulty for me, at least, in that the Ozma battlefield is just so visually and orally distracting.
Well,
Watching the mere polygons or that black hole world, like that world is hypnotic. Like I am actively trying to pay attention to other mechanics, and it is difficult.
Well, could you say you suffer from? Oh, look, a squirrel.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought the correct response would have been, I don't know what you're... Oh, look, a squirrel.
Hey, there is one out there. Cute.
But you know what? For Weeping City, I've said this before, I'll say it again. We needed this in the game.
You're right.
We needed it so badly. We needed to up the ante, up the difficulty, and they gave it to us.
We need to stop the hand-holding. There's been a lot of hand-holding with a lot of these dungeons. If you have noticed, this was easy. This was okay. This was easy. This was easy. Did you hear that as kind of a rolling theme that we had through all these dungeons? We needed something that kicked our
Sorry, it was there.
Fuck you, Sarah.
Damn it,
Fuck you, Sarah.
It was there. How could I not take that?
No, I respect you for that. The fuck you, Sarah, is for interrupting my train of thought.
I deserve that.
So, getting back to what I was saying.
Anyways.
The fact, I think it was just too much of a kick in the ass for a lot of these players that are out there. It was maybe too much. Instead of a nice gradual increase in difficulty, it was turned up to probably about 8 or 9 instead of 4 or 5.
And that's good. We needed that.
We needed the increase, but like I said, people weren't used to it and weren't quite ready for it, and that's why we got that flack. I'm devil's advocating here, okay?
Be nice.
I'm devil's advocating here. I agree with you.
Okay.
My job, punk.
Let me tell you something. Okay. Imagine Final Fantasy is your parent, and you're the kid of Final Fantasy, and you're all like, "But mommy, I need you to wipe my ass all the time," and the parent's like, "No, child, you're too old for me to wipe your ass."
Is there something that you need to tell us about Luna?
We're not going to wipe our asses anymore.
Is there something you need to tell us about Luna?
I'm potty training 2-3-year-olds. I know plenty about wiping asses.
Man, Beckett!
Man! But no, seriously. Thank you, Yoshi, and all the dev team. We needed wiping. God damn it. Full circle, people. We're going full circle.
Yes, the wiping city.
We needed this to be the difficulty that it is at. It will make us better players in the long run. It will help us progress our abilities.
Yes. And
there's no need to nerf it.
And this goes into the trial that we had, Nidhogg Normal. Also, more difficult than we've seen for these end story trials. Look at Thornton. This is the difficulty we needed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't super hard. Go ahead.
Especially since it was supposed to be like, this is the big dramatic ending. I think it's all right for that to be a little more difficult. That one is one where I think it's okay if maybe you have to like step back, like leave the fight and try again. Like maybe not like spend an entire evening on it, but if it makes you retreat once or twice, I think that's actually a little more okay for a finale.
Yep.
Not to the level that Steps of Faith was, mind you.
It wasn't quite that bad.
I don't really think that Steps of Faith deserve the flack that it got either, but
I agree with
probably
that too.
A topic for another day.
Nick Nair just kind of summed up this whole entire patch, in my opinion. But he said on Nidhogg, it's not super hard, but it requires communication. That's what this patch is. You have to fucking communicate with people.
Heaven forbid you talk with other people. You have to
build the bridge to Ishgard and talk with them. It's metaphorical and shit.
Yeah, that.
Listen, I get that we're a bunch of introverts that play the game in our mom's basements, but you know what? It's okay to talk to people.
Hey, I own
some
this
of that-
basement. This is my
Some of-
basement.
Not even in a basement. So.
Some of them are in like old sewing rooms or attics. Let's not judge here.
No shame. There's no judgment. I'm just saying that sometimes you need to learn to talk to other people. And honestly, before playing this game, I used to be shy as fuck. If you can fucking believe that.
Right? Listen to Potty Mouth
Right?
now.
Yeah, listen to me now. I'm saying fuckity fuck 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 every other word.
Paul's been a bad
And I could
influence on
actually
you.
talk. I've been like this since before Paul.
I know.
Plus, I'm older than Paul.
I know.
Yeah, you've known me for longer. Like, Klaus has seen me at my most not shyness, but he knew me at my shyest level.
Uh-huh.
And I'm definitely not that person anymore.
Nope.
Because mainly to this game, I can go out and actually talk to people face to face and not be all like, yeah, okay, uh-huh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay.
But
Yeah.
moving on. This is the one I can't speak much on either at this point. Extreme. I've only been in for about 30 minutes. The group I was in couldn't get past the ads. And so, yeah, that didn't go very well. But
I'm wondering if that's going to be another one where as people get a little bit better geared, it'll be easier.
it was more that I went in there early and I didn't, have a ton of time to sit and try and gel
Yeah.
with that particular group. It wasn't going to be a great group for that. But from the people that I've talked with, I've heard it's easier than Sephiroth.
Interesting.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So, but like I said, I've heard it, I have seen videos, I have seen clears. I haven't personally done it myself, but there's a lot of interesting mechanics with it. So I think it's going to be a nice difficulty, but not overly, too crazy. So
They're not going to wipe your ass for you again, guys.
no, but like I said, they're not
That's
going to
not
make
what
you
Waifu
pound.
City means.
They're not going to make you pound your head against the wall for ages either. So I think overall, patch 3.3 did a pretty damn good job of hitting that difficulty nail on the head. Would you guys agree with that for the most part?
I agree, and I hope we keep moving forward from here instead of
Yep.
falling back.
I want 3.4 to up it just a little more. Just a little more.
I mean, you always have to be a little careful in terms of when you're bringing in new players, you don't necessarily want it to ramp super, super high.
And then 3.5, let's turn that baby to 11. Just kidding.
I mean, they're going to have the last part of Alexandra at some point, aren't they?
No, that's 3.4.
In 3.4.
That's 3.4. So I'm assuming if we're going to compare it to the way that Coil came out, it's probably going to be tuned between 1 and 2 in difficulty level.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe slightly more difficult than 2 was, because 1 was the most difficult at this point. Whereas if you look at Coil, 2 was the most difficult. Because turn 9 was just a real pain in the ass.
That was a group breaker in some regards.
Mm-hmm.
Some regards.
I mean, I didn't clear it until after Heaven's Word. And we face rolled it in 2.5 minutes before a maintenance.
So satisfying.
Yes, Nick, now we're going to turn that to 14. Sorry. Womp womp. So, now I'm going to go back to that interview that we talked about a little earlier with the PSU and Gamerscape. This is a question that PlayStation Universe had asked Yoshi. In 3.3, Sorkai was a great example of a dungeon that had both interesting combat and narrative mechanics with Hraesvelgar flying overhead and in the fight with him. It's deeper and more interesting than some story moments in the past. I'd love to hear, if possible, what some ideas might be for the future, perhaps about 4.0 and how those moments might be more epic, like in Sorkai. And Yoshi's answer to that was, in terms of instance dungeons, it does serve a purpose also for leveling and to go in there multiple times for EXP and elegant tomestones. The time it takes to clear the content is typically fixed, so we don't want to make it that dramatic that it makes it tough to go in there multiple runs. That being said, we do plan on having dramatic contents coming up in the future. While keeping that in mind, the plotline for the next expansion is finalized and the main scenario is pretty much solidified at this point. We're hoping to bring more dungeons that are dynamic with never before seen dynamic content. We can't say that it was otherwise. We can't say what it is, otherwise that would be a spoiler for what is to come.
Well, yeah.
So, did you guys catch on that dynamic bit that they talked
Yeah,
about?
I'm wondering what exactly is meant by that.
Hopefully something
is it-
good.
I mean, is that the type of thing we have like, is, what's it? I had this on the tip of my tongue, but various things like where the dungeon reshapes itself or changes as you're going through it. Like with one of the things that comes to mind was with parts of Praetorium where it was being attacked, and so you had stuff that was exploding. That was kind of on a smaller scale, but in some ways the dungeon was changing as you were going through.
Or like if you turned off certain alarms or things like that, it would actually change the mobs that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility, or maybe I guess maybe it'd be more interactive, but we'll have to see what they mean by that. I think it'll be interesting.
Dynamic is a word that can mean a lot of different things.
Exactly.
It's kind of a gaming buzzword at this point, though, isn't it?
Mostly it means not static.
So
God damn it.
you heard it here. They're not going to let you have statics.
No statics for this, no. So with all that being said, and that was a lot of talking that we had in that, what does everybody think about the level of difficulty we are getting with the new dungeons? We kind of said we liked what we've got here with this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
One thing that I was thinking about, especially looking at the old dungeons, is there's definitely some kinds of difficulty where, again, especially the stuff where you have to memorize particular aspects, where if you have to go back for whatever reason, it can be especially frustrating because it's been a while, you've forgotten how this bit works, and this bit that should be easy is now becoming difficult because you have to go back and rememorize it. And I have felt like a lot of this content, if I go back to it, I'm not going to be miserable. Like it may be a face roll for a lot of it, but it's not going to be like oh damn it, I can't forget this exact sequence. Now I have to spend this time. This thing that should have been easy because I'm over leveled is difficult and I'm feeling humiliated. I don't feel like that's going to be the case here.
Okay. So with that said, what kind of things are you guys looking forward to as we move forward in 3.4, 3.5, and 4.0?
In terms of what exactly? Just in terms of content in general?
Content, difficulty, mechanics. What kinds of things would you like to see SE put into the dungeons that we're playing, the raids that we're bashing our heads against, the trials that we're facing? Besides Red Mage, Frank, I'm a phone.
As for me, well, I like the difficulty of a lot of these dungeons. Anybody that's known me for a pretty long time, though, at this point knows that one of the beefs that I have with Heaven's Word dungeons in general is that they're more partitioned than ARR dungeons. I liked the fact that in ARR dungeons you could push further into a dungeon if you so chose to, and it makes better speed runs. And
the type of thing where you can gather every single one and hold them all and nuke them down, and hey, let's have a speed run. And it definitely seems like they put a lot more blocks in it. I feel like possibly in part to make it more difficult or impossible to do that.
Okay, Nicknar in the chat has the perfect answer: the return of multiple path dungeons. I like that. Thousand Moz in 1.0
yeah,
had multiple paths that you could take where you'd get different bosses depending on which turn you took, and the different gear you could get from the bosses that would drop. So I mean, yeah, that would be an interesting thing to have. I've seen other dungeons have the multi-path type of layout in other games, so maybe something that we can look at bringing back here.
It's definitely something that can keep it fresh and interesting. I mean,
it's dynamic.
Yeah. And I mean, having stuff where different party compositions might encourage you to take different paths or things like that. Maybe if you've got a group with multiple melee DPS, then it tends you towards this route. While if you've got lots of magicians, it tends you towards this one.
Yeah, kind of like with turn 2 or coil turn 2. You'd go down different
Yeah.
route depending on how your static was set up, because you would whichever node you took out would
Right.
give the boss a different buff or debuff.
Well, I mean, I think it might be interesting if with that one it was depending on your group, you might want to do such a particular thing, but the choice was always in your hands. I wonder if it might be interesting to have a thing where it actually selects for you based on what you have.
Another one, we'll discuss one more that they brought up in the chat. Naja Salihim, she really wants more boss abilities that don't tell you what the moves are above your target bar, so you have to pay more attention to what the boss says, similar to like the dire sores to and things like that.
Or in Aurum Vale, Coin Counter is one of my favorite examples, where he's using the exact same moves that all the Cyclops use, but it's just not showing the area on those ones.
But it
So that
does
one
say
becomes
what
a
it
lot-
is above the bar, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We're saying even get rid of that, like the boss in Stone Vigil Hard and things
I mean,
like
I guess
that.
the trade-off for that, I would guess, is you don't want to make it too punishing if you happen to get it wrong.
And Frank,
Otherwise, that just gets super frustrating.
Frank on the phone in the chat agrees with you, because Naja is a sadist in any universe, apparently. Doesn't matter if it's 11 or 14.
Please don't hit us with your spiky friend.
So, everybody else, if you have an idea what you'd like to see, go ahead and email it to us, podcast@phoenixdownradio.com. You can tweet at us at phxdnradio. You can leave a comment on the webpage, www.phoenixdownradio.com, and let us know what other ideas you would like to see going forward with dungeons and the like. That was a huge mouthful, people, but it was good discussion. I loved it.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, I apologize to everybody who's normally comes in for Sayer's story time, his lore segment. We are going to be putting that off for this week. We're going to try a new format thing this week. We're going to go back and forth between episodes, and we're going to switch back and forth between having Sayer do a lore segment and doing a how do I segment, so you can kind of learn different things in the game. So this week we're going to do a how do I, and Seyo was kind enough to go through and work out how do I Black Mage. So Seyo, why don't you take that away?
No worries, people. I will be back next time to tell you all sorts of fun stuff about another Eorzean lore thing.
So go ahead and take that away, Seyo.
Okay, so this is kind of going to be a doozy, so everybody bear with me and buckle up. I apologize. So Black Mage is basically, it's a class based on duality, kind of like the whole aspect of like null and thaw, and the developers actually put several systems in place to kind of in a design perspective reflect the whole like the narrative duality. So basically Black Mage uses buffs called Astral Fire and Umbral Ice to manage damage and MP regeneration. Astral Fire increases the efficacy of fire spells, makes their cast time slightly longer, and makes them cost more MP. At max stacks, it makes blizzard spells cost less and have a faster cast time. Umbral Ice.
One way I like to remember that is the stronger the fire is burning, the more fuel you need to get it to go more so, but it's also burning pretty hot and hurting more.
Mm-hmm. Umbral Ice is the other buff. It increases the potency of blizzard spells, their casting time, like Astral Fire, and their MP costs. And at the max stacks, it decreases Astral Fire. It decreases fire cost and cast time. But the main mechanic of Umbral Ice is that it basically increases the MP regeneration by a lot, and it's more so per Umbral Ice tick. So, not tick, stack. So like, Umbral Ice 1 increases your MP regen by a little bit. Umbral Ice 2 more, and Umbral Ice 3 would take you about 2 total server ticks to get you back up to full. So they both They both last for 12 seconds once they are put up, and can be refreshed by any spell that grants the same stack. So, like, if I have a fire spell, and I cast one fire spell, I'll get one astral fire. If I cast that same fire spell, I'll get another astral fire stack, putting me up to 2, and it'll also refresh the duration back up to 12 seconds. It used to be 10 seconds, but they buffed it up to 12 recently for reasons that we'll get into later.
So basically, it's a similar way that like Warrior, their stacks of Defiance and Deliverance work. Each action that grants them a stack will not only increase the stack, but it'll also refresh the duration.
Correct.
Perfect.
Then, so to talk more about the Fire and Ice cycle, we have the ability to transpose. Transpose, what it does is it basically spends all the Black Mage's Astral Fire or Umbral Ice stacks, give them one stack of the opposing element. So if I have one fire stack and I transpose, it'll give me one ice. If I have 3 fire stacks and I transpose, it'll still give me one ice. So you can't go 1-to-1. It's just no matter what, you just get one stack of the other. And it cannot generate stacks of either when you don't have anything up to begin with. I call that a 0 state. So in a 0 state, transpose doesn't have any effect at all. So next I'd like to talk about some of the basic toolkit of Black Mage. Just so that when we get into the rotation a little bit later, it'll all make more sense. So we have Fire 1, which is the basic nuke. Becomes more powerful, costs more MP, and longer cast time with more Astral Fire stacks. You can get up to 3 Astral Fire stacks at level 40, and Fire 1 gives you an Astral Fire stack. Fire 2 is a basic AoE. It's of the fire element, so it scales with Astral Fire, and it gives you or refreshes Astral Fire. Fire 3 is a more powerful fire spell than Fire 1. It gives you, no matter what, it will take you up to 3 Astral Fire stacks. And whatever you do, guys, please don't spam it. I've seen various Black Mages, newer Black Mages. Oh, Fire 3, this must be like other Final Fantasy games where it's just a more powerful version of the fire spell that you already have. No, it doesn't really work like that.
That's an assumption I've seen on a lot of other jobs too. I know for white mages, a lot of the newer white mages get into their head, oh, Cure 2 must be better than Cure 1. I should use that all the time. Oh, look, I've got Cure 3 now. Like, there's definitely that mentality for a lot of them. And I've wondered if maybe, like, the stuff should have been named differently to avoid that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if a lot of it, the naming is just because it's what we're used to as in Final Fantasy lore. Because I think the Japanese names are like they use the fire, Fira, Firaga, and Firaja,
right. Which is the names that they've had as well. But they simplified it a little bit on the NA and EU side, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I want to just get into real quick is, so going out of order just a little bit, Fire 3 and Blizzard 3, both give you your 3 stacks. There's no reason to hard cast them otherwise unless you're just going into those 3, your 3 stacks.
So hit Fire 3 or hit Blizzard 3, and then he gets you 3 stacks. Use it
no matter where you were previously.
And then
move on.
Move on. Wonderful.
No reason to hard cast it otherwise. Flare. It's a strong AoE fire spell. It scales with Astral Fire. It also takes you up to 3 Astral Fire, no matter where you are. And the thing about it is that it depletes all your MP.
So you don't want to use that to get up to 3 stacks.
Correct. Depletes all your MP, and it also has diminishing returns with any more than 3 targets. Fuck you, SE.
Yeah, they did that with all AoEs though. Holy, most AoEs, the sweet spot is 3, and you get diminishing turns beyond that.
Yeah, I think they really did want to try to shut down some of that speed running.
Yeah. Well, it's their fault for making Mythflux a thing. And then Blizzard, basically, the Blizzard spells are kind of diametrically opposite, but give you additional MP regen, so you can go back to firing as fast as possible. Is that correct?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit more in depth than that, but the TLDR of it is you go into Blizzard to get your MP back, and you use Blizzard 3 to go, if you don't have any, to go all the way to 3 Umbral Light stacks. And Blizzard 2 is kind of an AoE bind effect type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also probably don't want to spam Blizzard 3 like you wouldn't spam Fire 3.
Right. It's used for the same purpose.
Okay. And I noticed that they don't have basically a ice version of Flare.
I mean, they do have freeze. It's a little bit quirky. I haven't really delved into it too much. It's more of a PvP thing. But
Okay.
Yeah, it really doesn't fulfill the same role at all.
Gotcha.
Traditionally, freeze has been kind of the ancient magic equivalent of flare, but it's not exactly its mirror here.
Gotcha. Then comes the stuff that you get at 60.
Yeah, so then we have Enochian. Increases all spell damage by 5% for 30 seconds, but that's not its real draw. Its real draw is gaining access to Blizzard 4 and Fire 4 once you learn them. Its initial duration is 30 seconds, and its cooldown is 1 minute. We'll get into why it has an initial duration a little bit later. Blizzard 4, it's a powerful ice spell that refreshes Enochian with 5 seconds fewer than its duration that you had previously. So you start out with Enochian, and it's 30 seconds. You cast Blizzard 4, it goes down to 25 seconds, then 20 seconds, and you really shouldn't cast it too much after then without refreshing Enochian back to its full duration. The thing with Blizzard 4, though, is it requires both the effects of Enochian and Umbral Ice to activate, but it does not grant or refresh Umbral Ice stacks. So that's something that you'll have to manage a little bit.
So you have to learn either how to transpose at the right moment or cast a Blizzard 3.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And then we had the last one, which is Fire 4. It's your bread and butter nuke for the end of the game. At 60, it's your most powerful nuke in the game, and it requires both the effects of Enochian and Astral Fire to cast, but does not grant or refresh Astral Fire, similar to Blizzard 4.
So basically, once your Astral Fire is about to expire, you'll cast a Fire to refresh that, and then go back into your Fire 4.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Interesting.
I'm learning, and I'm not even a black mage.
I think I know how to black mage now.
So then you have other stuff. Thunder 1, 2, 3. These are all the same dot. Contrary to popular belief, they're not, at face value, they're not one more powerful than the other. The difference is going to be MP cost and duration of the dot. So Thunder 2 and Thunder 3 last longer, but they do apply the same dot.
So you can't cast Thunder 1, 2, and 3 and get 3 different dots up?
No. It's the same dot.
It would be pretty sweet. But...
Yeah, because that's how it works with Arrow as a white mage. You can cast Arrow 1, 2, and 3 and get 3 different dots up.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that's,
but yeah, no. Black mage, they all apply the same dot, just with different duration.
Correct. Scathe is it's an instant cast ability that you're just going to be using when you have to run and gun for a bit. It's not really in the main rotation, so it's just in odd phases.
It's to keep your DPS up.
Yeah.
Because your ABC, always be casting, right?
Always be casting.
I mean, it's not like you're going to run out of MP if you're managing it with your fire and ice properly.
Mm-hmm. So then we have Sharkcast. This forces a proc on the next spell associated with one. And it has to be used within the next 15 seconds. So we'll get into the procs in a minute here, but basically what Sharkcast does is if a spell has a proc associated with it, it'll just force that proc to happen.
Very cool.
Swiftcast, your next spell will be instant. If you cast magic at all, you should be cross-classing this or have it. Cooldown's 1 minute. Convert, siphon some of your HP and restores a percentage of your MP. Cooldown's 3 minutes.
I have to just say this as a former red mage in 11. I'm just it's kind of odd to see it as a black mage ability.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if we get red mage, they'll have something defining about them.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for red mage, the thing that I've always found defining about them is the double cast. So some type of double cast or chain spell equivalent is what I'd expect.
I always have to get red mage into an episode, don't I?
Yeah, we know.
I think Klaus wants to play red mage, guys.
No,
I don't think that
That's
was. I don't think that was shoehorned too hard. I think you're okay. So
just wait until he gets mage into a discussion on warrior.
Oh God.
Well, yeah, no. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, so next we have ley lines. This is what you're going to see a lot, and I refer it as the AoE magnet.
Yep.
So ley lines creates a circle of power around the user. So while you're in your own circle, you have a 20% increased spell speed until the ley lines dissipate in 30 seconds later. Cooldown on that is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It also, of course, has the hidden effect of boss AoEs will always target this ground space.
That's why you have to stand on the edge of the ley lines after you lay it, and then so you can move over to the other side and stay in it.
Yeah. That definitely helps with a lot of things. That mechanic and a couple others, I think, are why I've seen more and more black mages who start figuring, okay, can I take a hit or two? Yeah, I'll just go ahead and take the hit.
Well, that's why you have Mana Ward and Mana Wall.
Yeah. Physical and magical shields, basically.
Slightly less obscenely broken than they used to be.
Okay,
All right, so let's go over real quick on the traits and procs before we get into some openers.
Okay, traits and procs. Firestarter, every time you cast Fire 1, you have about a 40% chance to get a free and instant Fire 3.
And that's where you make your explodey booms happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Thundercloud. This is a chance on every single tick of a dot of thunder to get a free and instant cast of any thunder spell that will both put the damage of that spell up front as well as refresh the dot to its actual duration of the
That's pretty powerful, actually.
spell.
It is a pretty powerful little spike there. I am always super thrilled when the Thunder proc goes off, and that's one of the reasons I really am looking forward to eventually getting Sharp Casting, because I can say, oh, Thunder proc hadn't come up yet? Okay, it's happening now.
Enhanced Scathe, not too much to say here. It's just a random 4x damage buff on the Scathe.
Oh, only 4 times? Jeez. So rough.
Well, it's initially 50 potency, but it goes up to 200. So
Which is helpful. When you're running and gunning and you're just trying to cast a really quick thing to keep DPS up, getting a random 200 potency, that'll be nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so I want to get into a little bit of a 50 rotation here. So to start off at 50, I would go either Thunder 1 or Thunder 2, depending on spell speed, into a Fire 3, Raging Strikes, which you should have, enough fires to get you down to anywhere between 500 and 800 MP. Swift Cast a Flare, Convert, Fire 1 again, Blizzard 3 to get your Umbral going, Thunder 1 or 2, depending on your spell speed, and then going back into your Fire phase with another Fire 3, enough Fire 1s to get you down to Umbral range, then you Blizzard 3 to get into your Umbral Ice again. Just a little note here that Transpose is not part of this. It's once you have Blizzard 3, that's kind of your primary way of getting there for the single turret rotation. and then it basically goes on ad nauseum. Your procs at this point are going to be use them as you get them. Your Firestorm, use it when you get it, and your Thundercloud is one of the big reasons why Thunder 3 is useful. It's not useful to hardcast, but it will be useful to
Thunder proc.
Thunder proc.
So a couple clarification things. Just to verify, because I hear you using the term, but I'm not sure if everyone knows it. Hard cast would be if you cast a particular spell without having any of the buffs or any of the special procs that give you like faster casting or cheaper casting or other things like that. That's sort of casting it from nothing.
Full cast duration.
Mm-hmm. And so it's sounding like the main thing is you're going back and forth between Fire 3 to get your stacks up, spend your cast your fire spells, Blizzard to start building your MP back up, and when the timers are up, you throw in that Swift cast Flare and convert to get some MP back. Is that about right?
That's right.
While mixing in the Thunder spells when that dot drops off. It sounds easy in principle, but it definitely feels like something where until you get the rhythm, you can easily miss a component or slip up on something.
And so practice on something like this definitely makes perfect.
I would say, though, that it's probably one of the easier DPSs to get into at that level. AoE rotation, pretty simple. Fire 3 to get into your fire. Raging Strikes, 3 Fire 2s. Swiftcast Flare, convert Flare. Then you actually want to transpose here because you're just trying to get back into your fire again. Then 2 Fire 2s and a Flare transpose Fire 3. Yeah, that's basically it. It's not too difficult to get into that at 50.
Yeah, I know in earlier patches, it used to be possible to do what our FC leader would call an Infiniflare, where you could essentially flare over and over in a row.
That was so fun.
Yeah, wasn't it up to like 4 flares that you could get if you would use?
It was literally infinite.
Really?
Theoretically unbounded with the proper timing and combination.
Wow.
They kind of put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, because you just needed to have a minimum amount of MP, right, in order to cast flare?
The idea behind it was the fact that you could cast Flare, transpose, go into ice, and hold your cast for just long enough where your ice would tick as your Flare was going off, so you would deplete your MP from Flare, and then you would get it back and be able to cast it again.
People are so crafty. It's great.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff we get from a community like this. So
yeah,
and then now
that hasn't been possible for a while, though, I think.
All right, and then it changes quite significantly once you get up to 60 and you add in your Enochian and your 4 spells, correct?
Correct.
That is a long rotation.
Yeah, I don't really want to get into the whole rotation here. I just kind of want to give you a taste of it. So you open with Sharpcast, Fire 1, and that will give you the Fire 3 Firestarter proc, Ley Lines, activate the Fire 3 proc, Raging Strikes, Enochian, 2 Fire 4s, and then Fire 1, two more Fire 4s, Swiftcast Flare, convert another Fire 4, and then go into your Blizzard. And at that point, you would have to think about just re-upping your Thunder spells, your Blizzard 4, and then you could go back into Fire 3. And at that point, you would have a reduced Enochian counter, so you would have to just balance the rotation at that point to where you're keeping Astral Fire up, but Fire 4 is your main source of damage.
And I've seen here, there are points where it actively says, do not use Thunder or Firestarter procs. Normally it's a, hey, hit those when they come up. Here it's saying, don't even use them. It's that tight. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
there are points where Firestarter and Thundercloud just lose complete efficacy here.
So kind of what I'm reading here is you're basically going to lose Enochian for 5 seconds before you can recast it again. Is that correct?
Yeah, at the end of your third fire phase, you can just let it drop off, because at the point where it drops off, you're going to be going back into your blizzard anyway. And then you could just, from your blizzard, you could go back into your fire the way you did with the 2.0 rotation, and then just grab a fresh Enochian and then go 2 fire 4s,
And then
fire
just
1, 2
start
fire
it over
4s.
Yeah.
again.
It sounds a little bit like Dragoon, where you've got that Blood of the Dragon buff that's lasts 30 seconds, and it's the recast is 60 seconds, and so you need to be able to keep it up for at least another 30 seconds, so that if it does drop off after that, you can just recast it.
Exactly. But what I really do want everybody to get out of this is just the fact that Fire 4 is your main source of damage. If you don't have access to it, you're probably losing around 40% of your DPS. So if you actually have to cut your fire phase short just to be able to go back into ice and save your Enochian, it's probably worth it to do so.
Okay. I know there were some other things we wanted to talk about. We're kind of running along on time. So
I can summarize this a bit quickly.
okay, go ahead.
Please do.
So the other thing that we had wanted to cover here was about stat weights, which most of you may all remember this, but stat weights is a term that we use to refer to calculations for figuring out which pieces of gear are the best. Each stat, like spell speed or crit rate, has a weight, which is a number that indicates how much effect it has on your damage. And so you can compare pieces of gear by comparing like the weight of its spell speed plus the weight of its crit rate. You can add that all up to get sort of the total weight, and you can compare gear that way. One of the things that's important about it is the stat weights are determined experimentally by the player base.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a set of known stat weights, but that may actually change over time as people conduct more tests, conduct them in different circumstances, say, hey, this experiment was a little off. So they may actually adjust a little bit as patches update the strength of various moves. We do have a general idea of which stats are most important for each job. For a black mage, you can look up the exact current stat weights, but generally, weapon damage is most important, then intelligence, then spell speed, then crit, then determination. Now, of course, like a very high amount of determination could outweigh a small amount of spell speed. Spell speed is considered most important for a couple different reasons. We alluded to this a bit, but unlike other DPSs, black mage never has to worry about running out of the resource that powers their attacks. A monk who has too much skill speed, they risk running completely out of TP, and then they have to just stop and sit there. Their greased lightning drops, they have to wait for their TP to refill. Their DPS pretty much bottoms out as a result. But a good black mage, they can just keep up the rotation and keep that damage going steadily indefinitely.
They're the Energizer Bunny of Eorzea. They keep going and going.
going.
Pretty much. As long as they can keep their MP filled with the Umbral Ice Cycle, they never have to worry about running out of MP, so they don't have to worry about that downfall of spell speed.
Provided they don't screw up the rotation, because I have seen black mages hit the wrong key, and then they do lose some MP, and then they got to start all over. But it doesn't take terribly long to build back up.
That rotation is the other reason that black mages really like spell speeds. I mean, like, if it wasn't already obvious, Enochian, you are a slave to it. If you've got a faster spell speed, you're casting those spells faster, you have a little bit more flexibility, especially in terms of recovering from spell interruptions. We mentioned how ley lines will draw all those AoEs to you, or if there's something else that interrupts, makes you need to move. If you've got spells that cast a little bit faster, you have a little bit more leeway in recovery time to be able to get that rotation back up without losing it all.
Exactly.
So spell speed is really valuable for black mages in a way that it isn't for other classes. And then they favor crit and determination because they are DPSs, and the DPSs do like crit and determination.
Exactly. Now, one thing that I'm going to say, like I said, these stat weights, especially for black mage, are very subject to the black mage stat weights are not really known. They're still very questionable. The exact stat weights. The other jobs have more hard stat weights that are pretty firm and they're pretty accurate, but black mage is still kind of experimental.
This is something that the player base came up with as a way to describe and communicate and say, hey, this is about how much we think this is worth. It's not something that's officially hard-coded into the game. I don't know if it's even the same method that the developers use. So
yeah. But
Take it with a grain of salt. It is not like gospel truth. It is science. It is our best attempt to measure and make a model for the world.
But what I'm kind of getting at is Black Mage is probably less likely to be accurate as the other jobs are.
Which means that, you know what, if it's not 100% perfect, whatever, there is some uncertainty anywhere there, you're probably fine.
And it's still your game. You can play it your way anyway.
As long as you're not being a dick.
Yes. So that is how to Black Mage. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for your work on that, Seyo. Like I said,
I hope it didn't go on too long.
No, it wasn't. No, I mean, you risk some of that a little bit. I hope people got a lot out of it. I think that Luna and I definitely did. And I hope that people listening
definitely.
kind of pick up some of that as well. And like I said, we would like to go forward on doing something similar with other jobs moving forward. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about that fire and ice duality, swapping back and forth between the two aspects of Naldthal there.
All right. Like I said, we're going to move lore to our next episode. And then we really didn't get a ton of email or reactionary stuff this week. We did have some fun talking with some of the other content creators and podcasters after we all bought our tickets. You know, we're all like fangirling that, oh yeah, we're going, and all that fun stuff, and talking about how we're going to meet up.
And given the number of British people we know, a lot of comforting people about the Brexit.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
But politics is... Hey, if we talk about politics, we will get so many emails and comments.
If we talk about politics, we're going to probably make Luna kill us all because we're going over in time.
Fuck that.
Quickly or slowly?
That's for me to know and for you to find out.
Hopefully
Let's
never.
not talk about politics.
All right, so let's start. We're kind of going to... Let's wrap this up a little bit. Anybody have any shout-outs they want to throw out?
Fuck Trump. Fuck Hillary. Luna.
Hey, you just said no politics!
Luna 2016. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've missed some filing deadlines.
Yeah,
I know.
And I think you're a little young.
Shut up. Don't judge.
I'm not
It's
judging.
in the Constitution. You have to be at least 35.
Yeah, you're kind of young. Any real shout-outs?
Shout out to my role-playing LS and group, Roll Hyperion on Luna's Lounge. Remember, if you want to join my little community that I'm building up here with a lot of great people from the community already, go ahead, message me in game or on Twitter at Luna_Vox or LunaVox if you're on Hyperion, and we'll get you set up and we will have a blasty blast.
Yay. Seyo.
I mean, shout out to anybody that has, or will be able to stomach me in a bunch of aetherochemical runs because I am going insane.
Just a little bit, right?
I suggest proposing marriage to a randomly selected player in your next run, just to spice things up.
Sarah.
No one for love here. No one for possible cross-server love. A love that breaks the boundary of worlds.
Build that
Yoshi
wall.
won't allow you.
Philistines. Oh, right. Shoutouts. I guess shout out to my best friend Spender, with whom I have been discussing an inordinate amount of strategy for a lot of different games lately. Thank you for pointing out the really, really obvious flaws when I'm totally sure that regen alone will be enough to cover my healing needs. Without you, I would waste significantly more stamina and resources.
Yeah, that'd be a thing, right?
Hey, it worked in that one fight.
Because it worked in one fight, it's going to work in them all, right?
Yeah.
That's science, isn't it?
Science!
Shout out to the 14 banner starting Monday. Woo!
Woo!
Oh yes.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Record
Final
keeper.
Fantasy Record Keeper
Oh, of course.
players. Starting this Monday is the second Final Fantasy XIV event, Lord of Crags. They're introducing Ida and Papa Limo, and they're going to be bringing back the Thyrus with that Stone Skin 2 wall relic that everyone has been salivating over.
Woo.
I have saved up about 400 mithril for this event.
And he's going to spend them all on that banner.
Hey, there's 2 banners. It'll get split. Also, I did some Google usability studies and got some money from that, and that is also being converted into gift cards. I would say I have problems, but this is not a problem, right? This is totally
You
legit.
got 99 problems, but Record Keeper ain't one of them.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I gotta throw a shout out to Moogle Go Round and our friends Paul and Chili. Thanks for having us on last week. If you haven't checked out Moogle Go Round, go ahead and search for them on iTunes now and on Stitcher, or you can go to phoenixdownradio.com and look for the Moogle Go Round podcast links that we have in our different posts. Had a really interesting spoiler cast last week, so if you haven't heard that one, go check it out. It was a lot of fun. We were all there.
We love you guys. You can live at my place, but only one of you, so you'll need to fight for it.
Oh.
To the death? Or to the pain?
Sure.
Let's go to the pain.
Whichever one amuses me more at the time.
I also want to shout out to all of the other podcasters that we're going to be able to hang out with coming up in FanFest. Shout out to Ruby and Yelta at Gather Together. Shout out to Pete and Aviel from She Heals I Tank, the shit podcast. They're awesome. If you haven't checked those guys out, they're really a lot of fun. Shout out to all the people watching us and all of our dancers in the show now for hanging out and making this a really fun podcast. I had a blast. I hope you guys did too.
It was a lot of fun. Just so you guys know, I'm a hugger. Prepare to be hugged at FanFest.
All the hugs.
Oh, prepare to be hugged.
There's going to be so much Mandervilling there.
So much
Yes.
Mandervilling.
Practice your Mandervilles because we're going to get one going
I'd be surprised if it's limited to 1.
all the time. All right, so for Lunavox, for Sarah Tomono, and for Seyo Mayo, I am Klaus Nightbringer, wishing you all a wonderful evening. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.